Hello, everybody, and welcome
Hi.
to Plat Chat. I'm your host, Curtis the Gamer, and alongside of me is Sideshow, Bala, and Mimi. I'm so glad that my friends are here to support me on my first time hosting Plat Chat. Everybody's here. The gang's all here. How you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It really is the real ones that have turned up on time today. You know, there's a real lack of respect coming from the west side of the bench.
I mean, come on, Josh, you can't be saying that. The only reason you're here on time is because you have to leave in a specific amount of time. So don't keep giving me that shit, Wilkinson.
Wilkinson has been on time for almost everything recently. When I was in Brazil, I was only late one day. That's pretty great.
Dude.
Wait, what day is that? Because I specifically remember us saying, let's get up at 1 p.m. on their final day so we can go have lunch. And
oh, well, yeah, I'm not talking about days off. I'm not talking about days off. I mean, yeah, you're trying to drag me out when I'm hungover and dehydrated. That ain't happening. That ain't happening.
Speaking of days off, I think the first day off we had, I heard you went to the arcade with a big group of people, and you didn't do, I heard you just didn't do anything.
I was dying. No, I wasn't doing anything. No, I was having the first stages of a mental booming that lasted the entire time. And we went to a mall just to eat. That was what we were going there, just to eat. And I don't have any signal on my phone. And then people decided to spend 5 hours in a mall playing on various different arcade machines. I just sat there and read my book. I read my book and I called my wife, and that's the time that I spent.
Your book? I wish I could easily go on Twitter and search these up. If you go to like Golden Boy's Twitter, there's like pictures. If you go to Pansy's Twitter, there's pictures. That arcade looks super fun. You're just being a little Debbie Downer.
You're just not a gamer.
Who goes to another country? Who goes to another country to play in an arcade?
Gamers.
You went to a different country, went to an arcade, and read a book.
Yeah, I'm valuing my time.
All right, anyway, Mimi's still not here. She's actually right here. She's going to be back soon, I guess. She's getting a coffee.
Yeah, she said she'd be like 10 minutes getting a coffee, so we don't need her for the intro anyway, I don't think. We'll just roast her for flying first class.
Oh, yeah, let's I wanted to recap a little bit of our adventures in Brazil because we had a lot of fun. Did you guys have fun in Brazil?
Yes.
This is Mimi and you guys are sat next to each other first class. You're playing like tower defense game.
Yep, I was chilling. We were having a classy experience.
Yeah, very classy. Meanwhile, I'm sat in economy. Fucking the woman next to me on the flight back from Sao Paulo to Amsterdam had her feet up on the chair in front of her, like on the back of the chair in front of her, fucking twiddling her toes. Like absurd situation. Not pleasant whatsoever.
That's kind of disgusting.
Be broke. I don't know what to tell you.
I heard Bren upgraded his flight to like first class for I shouldn't say how much money it costs, but
oh, it's ridiculous. I'm surrounded by wealth and I just feel so out of place.
Yeah, you're still in your white room. I heard you told me you got all of your stuff. Where
I've got all of my stuff, but I mean my PC's still in Pelican cases behind me because I haven't unpacked it yet. I mean, I've only been back for a couple. It's a fucking camping desk. I mean, there's not much going on here.
All right, I think we should get down to brass tasks. Is that how you say it? Brass tasks?
Brass tacks. Tax.
No, I actually looked this up. It's tax.
It's tax.
TACKS, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was tax,
brass tacks.
like TAX, like brass tax.
Taxing people
and then I Googled
for having too much brass.
Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Or taking their brass as tax.
Let's get into it.
Everyone needs to keep a liquid amount of brass in order to pay their taxes.
Yeah.
In the shape of brass tacks.
Exactly.
Right.
Brass.
Right. I see.
Tax. What is? Okay, let's figure this out. What is tax? TAC.
They're like little nails.
Things that you put
why
in.
do you? So you're. What is?
Because you're making a list of the brass tacks.
I can't tell you the etymology. I don't know. I've no idea.
All right. Saul Goodman needs to come out with another season explaining that shit. All right, let's go into our first topic. A new agent. If you haven't heard, Gekko has been released. He is the newest agent. He looked pretty cool. I like his aesthetic. I like his little creatures. What do you guys think?
Kind of dog for a lizard. I don't know. I feel like the gameplay loop is interesting that they've got with him, where he has to go and pick up his little creatures, but I'm not convinced that it's gonna be particularly effective. His flash is so slow and just kind of dribbles through the air. I don't think people are gonna get great value out of it. I saw like Tarek and FRT talking after the show match, saying that they thought this agent was going to end up getting nerfed pretty quickly because you can like use 2 ults with it in the round and that kind of stuff. But I just don't think it does enough in its like base loop to be useful. And also, if you don't go and pick the stuff up, you're just giving so much information away to your opponents about where you are, right? Like the whole point of him is supposed to be he takes space, he goes, he picks up his thing and takes a bit more space. But the game is so much more complicated than that. If you go and take a bit of space, you need to be threatening to your opponent that you could still be there or you might have left. That's like the entire point of these incomplete information games. And if they know whether you're there based on whether or not they see a glowing orb on the ground or whether there's like a pickup noise or whatever, like that is just giving away so much info to the defenders.
But you don't have to pick it up too. You could fucking bait it and act like you didn't, or that you did leave the space and you didn't leave the space. It adds the entire other
and
element.
then what? So you're just giving up your ability for the entire rest of the round just to fake
seconds.
like you're not there.
Yeah, you retake the space after they think it's gone. You pick it back up while it actually happens. You have it again, or maybe you pick it back up in post plant. Like.
Bruh, I just don't see it. I mean, look at this. It's the flash travels so slowly.
Yeah, but it also you can't dodge it. You can't dodge the flash.
You can shoot it.
Sure,
it has 20 health.
But maybe come up with some creative lineups where shooting it is bad for you, just like any other fucking thing that you have to shoot in the game.
It moves so slowly. I don't know. I fucking love Wingman. If someone wants to, make a plushie or a little robot out of this dude,
yes,
they are doing that for sure. So do you guys think the Wingman bomb plan is strong? Because the scenario that Wyatt gave to me that made me think that it's actually kind of good is like, say you do a fast execute, you kill both the players in the site, you throw Wingman down to plant the bomb and get in better position immediately, whereas you don't need someone sitting there planting the spike in the middle of the site and then getting in position. Do you think that scenario is realistic and strong? Is there any other scenarios in which Wingman could be extremely useful?
Yeah, he's useful for planting in certain scenarios, like any place that like you dive into plant and dive back out, like Behaven, for example, Icebox, you can plant him using a Sage Wall still, or Harbor Cove or something like that. Yeah, you could definitely find some value out of it, but there's also so much danger in it too, right? In the sense that you can't get him out. Like the guy has no agency to bounce if you don't like the situation, So I think it's an okay piece of mechanic. I think his just regular mechanic is way better.
I mean, I think it's good for the scenario that Wyatt described, right? When you're trying to stop a flood retake, you hit the plant, and you know that they're going to do some like crazy shit when you make the plant noise. Like they're going to go for a full retake as soon as you press the plant down. And so you just send Wingman and you have more players forward to be able to try to hold the space. But I think that what that offers is not enough to push him into being a superb agent or anything like that. And the same case when you're diffusing and retaking, like, yeah, you can go and put Wingman on and you have an extra player pushing yourself forwards. But I think most of the time that's not going to make up for the fact that he hasn't really helped you get into the site as well as another agent. He isn't giving you useful retake utility compared to other agents. Like, I just think the advantages there are bigger to having, I don't even know who you would replace him with, but like, I don't know, Breach, KO, whatever. Like, other agents just seem to give you more.
So what about like combinations with like Wingman? Like, obviously we saw in the show match, they're trying to combine the Harbor Cove with the Wingman plant. Is that like actually viable?
I mean, it looked like they wanted Wingman to die. I mean, they're just sending that little Sandshrew looking motherfucker inside his own Thunderdome where he can't defend himself and everybody else can just run inside from the defender's point of view and take him out. I mean, we were just sending him in like a sacrificial lamb. I don't really see the Cove being that useful, to be honest. It's so easily killed.
Look, I think this is the clip of Tarek just first round of the show match. He just runs in and kills Wingman.
I
Is
just
this a
love
real
that. FRT mollied himself off because he was trying to right-click Wingman to plant, but he actually had his molly out, so he right-clicked the molly and it split them all up.
Yeah, I mean, the show match gameplay quality of Gekko is not the highest in the world. These guys had, I think, one scrim and maybe one previous time where they could have played the agent, so they weren't that familiar with it.
They were cooking, though. They were cooking. I've been playing with him in ranked yesterday, basically, since he came out already, and I think he's actually like viable. Like his abilities just as base are pretty good. Like right off rip, like the Wingman regular boombot thing is actually fucking insanely good to be able to get a boombot like multiple times in a round potentially. It's
that's quite
crazy.
good. Yeah, because you often do follow the boombot into places, like much more than a flash.
Yes.
And the cone of aggression is way wider than a boombot.
Yes.
The boombot will only aggro if you're like,
Mimi!
inside this.
Guys, we already started. I'm here on time. Let's go.
Oh, poggers.
There's the fucking cone of aggression. Fucking Josh is about to win.
So this is the like little boombot cone of aggression. And then Wingman's cone of aggression is like this. So it hits people even when they're much further away from where you pointed it at.
Yeah. But also there's like ideas now that I've played with him for more than a couple hours, like throwing the flash straight up, for example, and getting info, and then it just lands right up back on top of you. You're able to recover it instantly. Like there's definitely some stuff that is unexplored with him still. And then his fucking mosh, his molly is just actually a really good execute tool. Like that thing covers so much space and it flushes you out like really, really well in comparison to other places. So I think Gekko good.
So what about his ult though?
Insane.
It seems
Ult is
pretty
very
damn
good.
good.
It's just insane. They buffed it since I played too. Like
Really?
it's more HP. Because at first I thought you could just shoot this thing really, really easily, but now it's kind of like one person can't really shoot it unless they have like a full thing of bullets and can see him from really far away. So
It's 5 bullets, right, from the Vandal to kill it. Has 200 health.
HP, so I think it's might be 6. It depends on the range.
Depends on the range with a Vandal.
Wait, no, I'm trolling with it. You're saying with the Vandal. Yes, 5 with the Vandal. I'm trolling.
But yeah, it would depend on the range with the Phantom.
Yes.
Mimi, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is your microphone like in Narnia?
No.
There you go.
Is this good now?
Yeah, it's a little
I'm
better.
very
Thank
prepared.
you.
I'm very prepared to podcast. I'm super prepared to podcast.
All right, I'm
ready
glad
for
you're
this.
here. I'm glad we're all here. Is there any what is an overall strength check do you guys have on Gekko? Is he going to be viable? I've heard mullings from some of you guys saying that he might be just like an easy initiator to pick up for newer players, but not necessarily good enough for pro play. Has that opinion changed since you guys have had a chance to play him?
I still kind of stand in the camp that I think you can get some value out of him. I think there are maps where maybe we see some teams try him out. I think the biggest issues that stand with him right now is that his E is hard to get value with, I feel like, on the defense. Because if you're like throwing it forward for scouting or anything like that, like you would with the other initiators, you're not going to be able to get it back most of the time without putting yourself at risk to recover your little friends. I think that also his Roomba guy is pretty solid. Like, I think that's probably the strongest tool in his kit. It's really good as a Roomba. Like you guys were talking about when it came in, like having the bigger like AoE to like actually stun people is pretty good. Like, it's actually a good tool to follow up on. And you can find some like kind of cool gimmicks with the plant stuff for executes. But I still think like he fills a weird role because I think most like more normal, like quote unquote, like normal, like initiators who will have like a dart or a fade or a sova that recharges on 45 seconds still provide more value in that way. So I think you have to, in a way, kind of build your comp around him. Like, you want tools that can help his wingman plant if you're doing that on an attack. So I think generally that I imagine he's not going to be like meta defining. I don't think every team is going to be like, whoa, we're going to run this guy, but I think some teams could be able to find value, and I think he'll be quite common in ranked because I think he's approachable. I think he's fun. I think the gameplay loop of picking up your little guys is very cool, and I think that's going to appeal to a lot of players. And I feel like that's actually a pretty good place for him to be in as a new agent.
Sorry, I've only played with him for a small period of time. You're telling me you can detain and flash yourself and stun yourself?
This guy has
Holy
I
shit.
think he has the
Only
best
if
potential
you're
for
Josh
trolling.
Wilkinson.
He has the best potential for trolling in
Holy
ranked
shit,
possible.
I'm going to play him all the time. All the time. Because also, presumably if you can detain yourself and stuff like that, you can also detain your teammates, can't you?
Yes.
Oh my
You can- I would-
god.
Dude, I was doing some of that
Get
yesterday.
me in the server with this guy! That's so fucking incredibly troll.
Dude, I was playing him in ranked yesterday, and my teammates started screaming at each other, and my Omen was like calling people slurs, and just every time I got my ult, I detained him. It was really good.
Oh
it
my
was
God.
really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
They're going to remove that. There's going to be people
It's
are
the
going
best
to
feature.
pick. People are going to threaten to pick Gekko to ruin games at the
Why is it
beginning.
even a thing, though? I mean, there's no...
I have no idea.
There's no reason to add that into the game that he has... Because the Dizzy specifically doesn't target your teammates, but it is a projectile, so I guess the splash still works on your teammates, but
Yes.
why? Why would that even be a thing that they've put in? It's not like you're
Realism.
disincentivizing the players from using it in crowded
Realism.
situations. That's the whole
It's
point.
for realism. If there's paint flying at you, it should flash you too. Obviously.
Oh, right, yeah. This game's really known for its realistic graphics and
You
situations.
can't even see your
dark
feet when you look
corridors.
down. Ridiculous.
What?
You can't.
Wait, what?
Ever since Halo 2 Combat Evolved, they haven't figured out how to do it again. All right.
Damn.
Anyway,
You just blew
In a-
my fucking mind. Holy shit.
Imagine race satcheling, and you look down, and you see your feet like, flying through the air, like dangling behind you.
It's
That'd be
never
so
something I
good.
considered. That's so crazy.
all right. I think it's time to move on. We talked about Gekko a little bit. We're trying to speed run this episode. Obviously, it's a pretty light episode. Not much has happened, so we're gonna get through it. So Premiere.
Not much has happened.
Yeah, not much has happened.
Lock in.
Premiere has been announced. Open beta is happening pretty damn soon. For those who don't know, Premiere is the in-game tournament system that Valorant is going to have, with the ultimate goal of it being a pathway to pro. Do you guys think that this is actually going to be what happens maybe within like the next 2 years of Valorant? Are we going to see pros in like top level Valorant that came from Premiere?
Yeah, I think so. I think so because we already see that with ranked. You already see people at the top of ranked getting picked up by different people. I mean, MCE is one that has previously been on record talking about like how he scouts people from ranked, and presumably with the Cloud9 situation, he's going to be doing that again, but we'll talk about that in a bit. I think that Premiere is just going to give you a slightly better indication of that kind of stuff. Like, you're still going to want to see people playing tournaments, actual tournaments against more structured teams, but you're definitely going to see some, like, you know, Premiere stars get chances on tier 2 teams or tier 3 teams and then work their way up. It's just going to be like a lower version of Open Division. It's like the guy that's going absolutely batshit insane right now in the Japanese stuff, the something. Yeah. You know, if something's playing in Premiere and he's fucking smoking everybody and dropping 72 per map, then yeah, he's going to get a tryout in a different team. It's just a way of noticing people.
I don't think people will get noticed from Premiere, but rather qualifying into challengers from Premiere, and then that is where they'll start getting scouted. Why? Because I highly, highly, highly doubt that anybody is going to be watching any fucking level of Premiere, because there probably won't be any broadcasts, and it's probably just a bunch of fucking random friends playing and eventually getting to some high tier, but even then still wouldn't expect any broadcasts, which should happen eventually, but not within 2 to 3 years.
People will just look at the stats.
What stats? You think they're gonna fucking troll through the fucking
What? There's gonna be
the
there's gonna
tournament
be
stats of best of ones?
there's
in
gonna be a
Premiere?
tracker.gg filter that only works for
Oh,
Premiere
great.
games or something.
No way.
There's no
Yeah, of
way
course there will.
They're gonna look at the stats. That's not what MC is doing. MC is fucking watching the streams.
Oh, MC's in the fucking spectator stream in ranked.
Yeah, he's fucking talking to his friends who are playing fucking Radiant ranked, and they're like, "Holy shit!" Actually,
Why would that be any different in Premiere?
The story of what? his fucking pro player friends are not even playing Premier at the top level of anybody who's
that's
actually
true.
doing anything.
That's true.
And
That is true.
the story of Trent is that MC was trialing people for his team on the guard, and they scrimmed against Trent. Not that he fucking found him from ranked. Yes, he was a ranked demon, but that's side to side, not that I think that you're wrong. I think ranked people get discovered all the time, but I don't know. You have to actually be actively playing with them to be
Okay,
scouted.
so what's going to happen instead is MC is looking for his new player for Cloud9, and he goes to Bala and he says, all right, dude, I've got to try and scout somebody from Premier. Please, can you play against them? Tell me who the best players are that you, the broadcast talent team, have played against in Premier.
There's no way. It's gonna be more like Balo said, where people are gonna make it to challengers. They're gonna get scouted in challengers. Maybe challengers teams are in the fucking depths hunting for the one new idol within Premier, and they find someone to like elevate from like the tier 3 to the tier 2. But I don't think it'll happen that much all the way up to tier 1. But still, I think Premier good, Premier cool. It's connecting the game and the esport. Wyatt has actually done a pretty good job about that stuff. And this is a much bigger step to getting us closer to that. Because if I'm correct, right, like the top league, top Premier players will actually have a chance to qualify into playing in the Challenger circuit, which is pretty awesome.
That's eventually what's going to happen.
Eventually.
They haven't actually specified any specifics. Like it's not necessarily top division. Who knows
Sure.
if it's just like an open tournament or whatever. But yeah, that
Is
is
it-
eventually there's a path.
Does that mean that there's going to be no more open tournaments for qualifiers, or is it just going to be Premier qualifiers?
Premier is the open tournament.
That's pretty sick. And I kind of agree with Josh. I think it actually is viable. I think once you hit a certain level in Premier, you're probably just going to get poached if you're really that good. You're going to get trialed, and then if you're good enough, you'll get hired. You'll make it.
Kind
on
of
the
sucks,
team.
I guess, for these like third-party organizations that have built up a bit of a system of running open tournaments in Valorant, because they're currently getting paid presumably for their services like administrating and running these things and running the bracket, and now they're just going to run it through Premier instead.
What tournaments?
I mean, the Knight stuff, the old NSG kind of people, although I know NSG are not running anything anymore, and now Knights actually have challenges, so I guess it's not really as relevant as
Sure.
as I made it seem, but
There's an
for a
NSG
time,
line,
there's
like in a week from now.
You can become an NSG creditor by playing. Ooh, very exciting.
Oh, bye, Josh.
Oh,
I
Josh really didn't like that joke.
I do think that
He really didn't like that. Sorry. Go ahead.
that TOs might actually end up getting access to running tournaments in Premier, like in the game itself, which just alleviates a lot of the headache of administrating tournaments in the first place and just allows them to put on high quality content, broadcast, whatever, and focus just on that, which I think is pretty cool if that happens, because it happened in Fortnite and hopefully it'll happen here too. But
So before we move on to the next topic, do you guys know about Clash and League of Legends? It's a similar system, but I don't think the goal is to get pro players. I think it's just more of like a fun in-game competitive system. So
In my
Valorant-
understanding, it's like you just put up like Riot puts up like normally it's like fake money, like RP points, and
Yeah.
you play in a tournament for that. Like it's not there's much lower stakes, but people still enjoy it.
you get cosmetics and
Yeah.
and riot points or
Dude.
whatever for playing.
If there's any fucking network technicians in the chat, by the way, every time I run a Video Ninja and try and record this fucking episode, my Ethernet port on my PC breaks down. How is it overheating my Ethernet port, but where streaming doesn't? But it only happens when I record Plat chat. What the fuck is going on?
Stop
Anyway, I'm on
spitting some
Wi-Fi.
hot fire.
It's very stupid.
Have you tried a different Ethernet
Fuck
cable?
you, jackass.
All right, let's get into the meat and the potatoes of this episode. Fnatic, finally lift the trophy. And when I was making this topic, I was thinking to myself, finally might not be the right word for it. I was thinking Fnatic already lift the trophy. Do they have many trophies to look forward to this year, or did they just benefit off of the tournament style? How do you guys feel about Fnatic? Were they the best team at lock-in?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the format was supposed to lend itself to a lot of upsets, but I think when you look at the way that they stomped some of their other competition like Na'Vi and murked their way through that side of the bracket. Didn't look like they were at any risk against teams like 100 Thieves or Sentinels. And then they end up coming through with the trophy win at the end. I don't think they're guaranteed to win every tournament. I'm not saying that they're indisputed GOAT, the era of Fnatic starts now or anything like that. But yeah, I think they were certainly a top team. They looked like they were going to 3-0 the finals, to be honest. And I think that they should have taken the trophy. Like, they looked like the best team at the event, in my opinion. And I think that there's a decent chance they lift another trophy this year. The big problem with that is there's only 3 trophies to lift in a Valorant season. So your chances, even if you have a 50% chance of lifting each trophy, you don't have a great chance of getting multiple.
Sure. Although, to be fair, it does mean a little bit more to lift the regional trophies as well. And I think they very, very, very clearly look like the best team in EMEA. Like, I was like, this team is good. They're going to be good until that game against Na'Vi. And that game just impressed me. The way that they managed to dismantle Na'Vi, even in those close games, holding things tight. I think Boaster, his calling seemed so much better throughout this tournament than previous ones. We were waiting for the choke to happen, and it kind of did happen in the grand finals. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen in that semifinal, which I thought was good because Na'Vi was actually adapting, switching things up, throwing new things, and Fnatic always managed to have an answer for it. Chronicle and Leo, as expected, very, very good video game players. And I'm not going to say they're expected to lift another trophy because we've said that about every team that's ever won a fucking trophy in this game, and it never happens. It's a curse. But I think it does look possible because this team looks very insane. And I will say, flat out, they were the best team at lock-in.
I agree.
I think finally is completely apt, though. Like, fucking finally, because this took so long for a team that has looked like they were in this state in previous iterations. Maybe not this state, because I think it's firmly behind them now, that choke Fnatic type of narrative, even though it did rear its head some points. But you just tell, like, all the players that you have on this team now are able to, like, allow Boaster to still continue calling and continue thinking because they're good enough to do what he needs them to do, I guess, in that sense. Not that he should have put himself in those situations with weaker teams, but now they're just so strong that he'll easily push through that.
Yeah, he had chances to win tournaments before, though, right? Like, the Fnatic was the best team in EMEA and looked like they could have been the best team in the world for different tournaments too. But for this one, I put a tweet out when they first signed this roster. Like, this is the only super team, in my opinion, like, worthy of the title that we have heading into 2023.
Yep.
And I don't think people will talk about Loud or Sentinels or Cloud9 or whatever, but that's some fucking bullshit. Like, the Loud team has had to make 2, massive signings of new players. While it's the best that the Brazilian region could come up with, for sure, that doesn't mean that it's a super team, I don't think. And the Sentinels and Cloud9 teams are just not stacked in the way that Fnatic is stacked. Like, most teams only have 2 of these caliber of players. Like, most teams only have a Durka and an Althea, and then 3 more supportive players. Or some of the best teams have, like, 3 of that caliber of player, and it's like, holy fuck. This team has 4 unbelievably talented players, where the weakest of them has at any point, and you can pick anybody you like here, but the weakest of them has at some point been considered the best team in their region or the best team in the world. And that's the second worst player on the team. Like, literally, you can repeat that argument with any of the 4 players apart from Boaster, and it holds true because that's what's been said about them at various times. So that, to me, is fucking monstrous, and they had to win a title this year. They had to. And so the fact that they've got it at the beginning here, I think, is great for the team overall, and I want to see where they can push to. But the quality is just so absurd on this team.
I wonder if it takes pressure off of them or if it puts more pressure on them now that they've won a trophy. Like, with that whole statement in mind that they need to win a trophy this year because the team quality is so fucking insane. But now that they've shown that they've done it already, like, is it going to get harder for them mentally to do it again? I would say probably no, really?
Absolutely
I don't think so.
not. The monkey is off the back. Dude, they were using I Want to Lift a Trophy as a promo campaign of Masters Copenhagen, I believe. I think we just saw signs of Boaster, I Want to Lift a Trophy, and then they fall short again and again, and now they already lift the trophy, and their team is stacked. And also, I thought Boaster overperformed when he has an insane team around him, and he also performed at a high top level, like probably the best he's ever performed at an international event. I would love
Over
to
an
see the
entire
stats on that.
tournament, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I think they're only going to
I
get
just
better.
feel like this team is so good right now that like if they start getting choky, if something goes wrong, it's just like, oh, Chronicle's just gonna have a round. Alpha's gonna have a round. Leo's gonna have a round. Dirk is gonna have a round. Like there's always gonna be something to like break the momentum. It feels like for them.
What wasn't that already happening at this tournament? Like, I feel like I saw many instances of the same Boaster IGL, like, doesn't really know what to do in the final few moments. Rounds getting extremely tight. It looks like they've thrown the round away because the mid-rounding falls to pieces. And then suddenly they get to a site and fucking Althea kills 2 or Chronicle kills 2 or
Like,
something
look at
like
that.
that.
That's what happened in the 100 Thieves series. Like, Boaster literally said, I ran out of ideas in that series, guys. My bad. We almost choked that one. And they almost did. And then, like, the last round before it was about to go to overtime, Dirk is just like, okay, what if I just killed everyone on the site with a shorty? That'd be so cool.
Yeah, and also I feel like they were spamming the same kind of strats in OT again and again when it got to the game against, I think it was Furia, but
Yeah.
also they were doing that even when the game got close on Haven against Na'Vi too, where they just run the same plays, and it's not... it's clever IGLing to some degree because Boaster's realizing he doesn't need to overcook it. Like, they just can't stop this strat. Let's just run it until it fails. So, you know, it's sensible, pragmatic IGLing. But it's not like Boaster put on an insane performance with his IGLing, in my opinion, on this event. He had his moments for sure, but I think the sum total of it was extremely good prep work heading in from Boaster as well, right? To simplify his job once it actually got into the game, and the insane individual ability of being able to make like moments where Boaster doesn't have to micro them, and the fragging power that they have. I think they demonstrated like actual super team vibes where anybody at any time can step up and win a round for them. And it's not just down to Boaster's calling and micromanaging like it has been in the past.
Yeah, I did see moments where the micromanaging and IGLing did put them in a spot where even a super team couldn't put you, like, bring you out of. Where, for example, 100 Thieves come back against them on Icebox, like that attack side was drastically different than what we saw in the finals against Loud, where multiple moments it's like, yeah, okay, like they're fucking going for this crazy strat, and that's causing them to all be on different pages because it's not practiced enough or whatever. And then there's moments where it's like, yeah, no way, even this team can't pull it back. But that honestly, that last round was one of those moments, but it just ends up happening that, yeah, it fucking super team.
Even
Cool
like their
stuff.
like Lotus attack side versus Loud. Like there were so many rounds where they were just like running out of time in the mid round and trying to make like some last second call to pivot into a site and like getting spiked down, but just getting owned to like a fast like retake. Like there were still some of those issues that showed at times, but I think that is stuff that I hope at least that can heal with time and that can make this team look even stronger. Because despite all the mistakes we're pointing out, they still won the fucking tournament. They still looked insane. They still had 5 players who were all putting on like really masterful performances across the course of the tournament. So yeah, I think there should be an expectation for them to lift another trophy. Will that happen again? Should, but don't know.
One player that we really didn't talk about at all is the VLR and the Spike GG MVP. Apparently, they gave him a trophy. I don't know if they actually sent him a trophy, but Leo, he was who we thought he was. We ranked him number 4 in our top 10 going into lock-in, and he was probably even better than that. Leo is a Chad. He's a god.
He is the truth.
He is the absolute truth.
I think me and Bala both had him. I'm not sure about the other people on the podcast, but I think it was a fairly like well-held idea that he was going to be the best player on Fnatic on a super team. This guy who hadn't been in the biggest moments had only really shown himself at, was it one LAN playing with Guild?
Copenhagen,
It was just Copenhagen.
Yeah, it was just Copenhagen. Like you could just see from watching his online games and that one performance at LAN that he was already of the quality to be able to be the best player on a super team. Which is fucking crazy, honestly, that he then lives up to it. He's only 19 years old. He looks insanely talented, and he's just got the full package.
Yeah, his composure, everybody's composure was amazing, but again, he's played at one international LAN before this and then top performs in his second international LAN with huge expectations for him and his team going into it. I wanted to touch on Chronicle being the first ever player to win 2 international LAN titles. Just a nice little landmark for Valorant. Also in the grand finals, he played 5 different agents. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I guess there's really nothing else to say in regards to that, but one thing that might be a little disappointing going into Masters Tokyo is that Fnatic has earned EMEA 4 slots.
Fucking Christ.
Oh no.
Oh God.
No.
And I'm not
How
an
could
EMEA
they?
hater. I think Fnatic are insanely good. I love me some Na'Vi. All right. What else do we got?
And
we got 2 more.
what other?
What else do we got? We got 2 more. Is Carmine Corp going to
So,
be making Masters Tokyo? Like, let's look at
Do
those
not say
lists.
that to me. Do not
Dude,
say
it's-
that to me.
It is actually Carmine Core, though. As horrendous
It's
as it
not.
is.
It is not.
It's Vitality
Carmine
and Carmine Core.
No, it's not. It is Vitality Giants. It is Vitality and Giants are Koi. There's
Bruh.
no way it's Carmine.
You're coping. You're coping. Because
It could be Foot. I think it's Foot before it's
What about
Carmine.
Koi?
Core.
okay, here's
Yes.
my thing about Carmine Core, dude. All the French fans that were clipping me on Plat chat saying that Carmine Core are trolling, they are trolling. Your team is fucking trolling. Your team is trolling. And I've got a mad video that I'm going to make whenever I can be fucked about all the ways in which they're trolling. But also, if they just stop any one of the trolls, they're immediately going to be a top 3 team, or a top 4 team for sure, but they have chances of being a top 3 team in EMEA because the competition is not that great, and also their player quality is also really high whilst trolling. They are inting rounds away with bad economical management. Their IGLing is really poor. They only have a couple of maps that they're good at. Their comps make no sense, and they're still doing okay. I mean,
How are
it's-
they going to fix it? How are they going to get Scream off IGL? How? How do they stop him? Because he
Well,
seems unstoppable.
I don't think they need to get him necessarily off IGL to even like get to these LAN events. If they have 4 spots, I mean, all they need to do is tighten up. So if they dragged in some slightly better comps and stopped force buying Sheriff and Guardians in every fucking round so that they could actually afford some rifles, then that would already put them neck and neck with Vitality. I think this team is going to get underrated because they are trolling, but they are actually going to make it to Tokyo, and it's going to fucking mold me off the face of the earth.
Holy
But that is how bad the EMEA currently look. I mean, EMEA were in the dumps at this tournament. Fnatic and Na'Vi looked insane, but oh my god, Vitality are should be a dark horse team, and they're top 3. For sure top 3. No one else looked near them.
Listening to this is so fucking cathartic after being the fucking the Carmine Core FPX debate, the great debate during our pick'ems, because Josh is putting reasoning to everything that I was saying about how Carmine Core, yeah, they're going to be fucking trolling, but they're still going to fucking beat FPX, and they're still
They
going to
nearly
fucking...
didn't, motherfucker. They
I
nearly
know, but that's the point that you're fucking making. They could, and they probably will qualify for EMEA with top 4 spots, even with the trolling. Is the whole fucking crux of my argument earlier on. It's just there's no way you could bring a team like that. Anyways, we're fucking digressing way too far. But
I think that, okay, the worst part about this is not that a bad team from EMEA is going to make it. It's that Japan has no chance.
That is true. Imagine being a Japanese fan buying a ticket and you get to watch Carmine Core instead of Zeta Division. Oh.
Dude, tell me how Zeta makes top 3 in Pacific.
I'm not
It's-
going to be able to. It's not possible.
If they had a chance of making top 4, if DRX had won, which God bless him doesn't look like that was on the cards, but if maybe Zeta have a chance of making top 4, but even that would have been a stretch, I think.
Top 4, DRX better than them for sure. Gen.G talent better than them. Secret probably better than them.
There's just
I'd
too
say
many SCA
RQT1. Paper, I forgot about him. I think they are a bottom 3 Pacific team. I'm going to be real.
Oh, God. I mean, I didn't go that
Jesus.
far.
Jesus Christ.
I love
not gonna say
Japan.
anything.
I really, really, really like Japan, and I love Zeta Division, but I also was very unimpressed with what I saw from them this tournament. It was... Ugh.
I didn't even think that they played that horrendously, to be honest. I think they were up against a really tough Leviathan team, and I thought Their game
The
plan
pro
around
was fine.
depth
The,
was
the
actually
comeback
all
was
right.
nice, but the first map was fairly dreadful. Leviathan looked good, but the thing is, like, the rest of the Pacific teams like shocked me by how good they looked.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's
Pretty
the
much every
problem.
other Pacific team came out and really, really impressed me. Whereas Zeta Division about met expectations of being
Yeah.
like, okay, this is an upset team. Maybe they can take a map off of Leviathan. They almost did, but I don't see much more than that. And I think that's enough to put them towards the bottom of Pacific because I think this league is actually people were sleeping on it. It's pretty fucking stacked.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting when we do power rankings. Bottom 3, it's hard to fucking to think
No.
about, but maybe we reverse them again. I don't know. Fucking-
Oh no.
no.
I'm not
I'm just
touching
kidding.
the Zeta Division logo unless I'm moving it around in a tier list. I'm not flipping it around.
Moving
We
it
can
around
talk
to
about
bottom.
the Pacific teams as we go forward.
I just think it's good karma that Fnatic fucking win the tournament finally to return the payments to all the fucking other EMEA teams that have gifted them spots at champions over the past fucking 2 years.
True. True.
Good
That's
on
it.
him.
All right. So the team that almost took the title, almost went back to back, almost subverted. I mean, they definitely subverted everybody's expectations. Loud are still the best team in Americas after changing out 2 of their players, Saucy and Pincata out, Coenzine and Thieves in. Are they better than what they were before? Or are they going to be better? Because they look damn good. They looked like a championship team. They looked like they were getting better as the tournament was progressing.
I wanna hear from somebody else before I open on this.
Okay. I think that right now, I do not feel like they are better, but I think this team will be better soon than what the previous roster was able to achieve in heights. First off, things that really impressed me in this tournament, like Sadak being able to come in as an IGL, work with a new coach, completely change the style, and still look fantastic in integrating these 2 new players. They didn't have that huge amount of time to get these guys in. And it looked fairly well drilled. After the initial start of the tournament, where like the core was looking a little bit troll in their first couple matches, and they were looking a little bit rough, they really got things under control for their last 3 series in this event. And the coordination was pretty cool. I think their read on the meta is fantastic. I love the Sky double controller compositions. I think that's a direction that more teams are going to move in. And I think their game plans around it were great. Their pro was awesome. Their icebox was very good. Consistently, when they were playing those comps, they were performing well. I also think that considering the fact that you are making up for Pencata and Saucy, the performances that Thieves and Coenzine were able to put up, very, very, very insane. I think Coenzine, he's played one LAN before, but he was like the best, like kind of standout player that I think people didn't expect to be insane. Like everyone expected Leo to be insane. I don't think most people expected Coenzine to be as good as he is. So this team, very impressive. I think it's fair to say that they should be expected to be the best in Americas. But back to the question of whether they're as good as the old team. The old team was really fucking good. They had insane player quality. They had some good ideas. They had good structure, obviously, and were able to come back and win a title at the end of the day. This team, I still think, had some moments of trolling. And they had the player quality to come back and win out in those moments. They were very good in this scrap. But I still think there are some, like, kind of moments of coordination and moments, particularly towards the early part of this tournament, where it still kind of felt like there was a voice that was missing, where like people were kind of going off on their own, doing things that were a little bit too silly. I think there are still some of those issues, but I think Loud impressed enough here and showed enough player quality that they will be able to be as good as Loud was before.
I'm not even sure that I agree with Loud being the best team in Americas. I think that the Americas region, I kind of think this about EMEA as well, where I think Na'Vi have a great shot of actually lifting that trophy, but we'll get onto them in a bit. But I feel more strongly about Americas in that the game NRG Loud that we're watching here was so close. And actually, I was just trying to count it up there. I might be wrong with this, but I think NRG had more match points than Loud did. They had more opportunities to win the match. Right. Okay. Yeah. I think they had like 3 compared to 2 or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. But the match was decided by very, very slim margins. And that's also with probably Loud having a better read on the meta in terms of the Viper Harbor Sky stuff. But I think that just because Loud made it to the finals and had a chance of being able to win doesn't really rule NRG out from having a very strong chance of being the best team in Americas too. And
Sure.
I wasn't impressed by some of the stuff that I saw from Loud. Like, I think that forcing the double duelist is it looked cool at the beginning, and Sadak was playing pretty well at the start, and then the more tough the opponent, the more he really dropped off, and the more that led to their calling dropping off as well. And I don't think that that's going to end up being sustainable for them if they want to take this to win tournaments. The other part being too that we saw some outrageously godly performances from Aspas, and somewhere he just completely fell off. And frankly, neither seemed that correlated to whether or not Loud won. It wasn't like Loud was always winning when Aspas had a god game, and it wasn't like they couldn't win when Aspas was falling over. It more so seemed that Aspas was actually quite an unconnected element of Loud's game plan, and not given the same ways of him being set up that we saw with the Sassy Pancada duo. Because they would play a much slower style. Aspas had a very defined role, and Sadak was always there to support. On this team, there's a lot of moments where Aspas just has to kind of bully his way through situations without too much utility really being given to him. And that, I think, is leading him into a feast or famine play style where he just is forced to take sometimes low percentage shots, and he's sometimes good enough to win them all and dominate. But sometimes he's just going to not really get much done, and it's just the space that he creates that's the benefit for Loud.
I think part of that is because of the comps that they're playing, no?
Yeah, it definitely is.
And early on in the tournament as well, when you mentioned like Sadak, like playing the double duelist on split and stuff and doing well against those early teams, like a lot of times the game plan at the very beginning of games, even on those weird comp maps like Pearl, Aspas was a main focal point of just their game plan where he was just pushing top mid and just like fucking aggressively taking space with like harbor utility. That stuff fell off towards the end of the tournament. It felt like they weren't running nearly as much of it, if at all. So maybe that's an aspect of it as well. But I certainly think that the comps have a major factor to do with it, because it's super slow. It's very map control focused, where yeah, you can be the tip of the spear in a lot of those attack sides, but especially when it comes to defense, like it's hard for him to be in the same positions rather than, and actually be able to take advantage of the untradeability factor rather than just being somewhere else on his own, you know? I do distinctly remember, especially with Mimi on the desk, just talking about like how Aspas is just constantly like, just not with the hit, which was definitely weird.
Yeah.
I agree. There were some weird things. I'm especially expecting them to have real comps on Fracture and Split as time goes down, which to me will kind of put them over the edge against like an NRG who, in my mind, also is like kind of rolling the dice with the roles that they're picking, and just kind of going all over the place with that. But yeah, so I think I still edged Loud over them overall.
Yeah, I don't think they're at the same level as the Sassy Pancada duo yet, but I think that they could get there with time. You've got to remember that these teams haven't had a huge amount of time to practice together. The Loud team only really came into its best elements between that period of time after Copenhagen up to the run at Champs, where they were building on so much pre-existing teamwork. And I think that this team has that ability. I mean, I think Tui's has more than he's shown so far, probably. So yeah, I think they can get there.
We barely saw Tui's in the same roles as Pancada. Like he was just basically playing Harbor for a significant amount of time and even on maps that you would have expected, you know, Pancada-esque play style to come out with the players on this team. Like Ascent, they're still switching up the comps a little bit to make it kind of wonky for a controller to play just by themselves. So yeah, I expect them to have way more. And what I've talked to Fraud about, like the work ethic on this team and the young players as well, and Aspas is included in those young players, by the way. He's still 19 or something like that, is really, really, really promising for their future. So I think I think they are better right now than the Sassy and Pancada core. And I think they'll get way better. I think they still have even way more to show.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I also think a thing we haven't really mentioned yet about this team, but also like, I felt like less in this tournament. He was already really impactful at Champions, but I think in the last few games that they played, it almost felt like he was finding even more value in this one. Like, he is still an incredible anchor player. His lurks were still very, very good in the maps where he was enabled to do that. And for me, I was just super impressed with him as an individual. So yeah, I'm also on the train that this team is getting closer and closer. I still don't feel like they are quite at that level of the previous team because of some of those moments that you were mentioning, Bala, mostly around some of the coordination stuff, some of the compositional choices with the double duelist stuff. But those are also things that I think can be remedied fairly quickly, and I think they can hit that level, maybe just within this America split.
So before we get into more of the Americas teams, Josh, you're saying they're not, they might not be number one in Americas. Is that because they were riding the crowd buff? The crowd buff was a hotly discussed topic, especially with some of the very audible moments that happened in the tournament, which presumably gave the players essentially wall hacks. How much of a crowd buff do you think that Loud got? We were all there. We were all in the arena during the grand finals and all of their matches, of course.
I don't think it was that much, personally. I think that there's so many elements of the crowd that people don't talk about usually. Like, they just assume playing in front of crowd equals good, and most of the time the people are saying that because it's like a mental thing of like, oh, you have all these people cheering you on and stuff. But people don't tend to talk about the fact that everyone being there expecting you to win also adds an insane amount of pressure onto newer players, and they don't talk about the fact as well that part of what we're going to discuss is the like cheering element that's basically soft cheating, right? But I was actually amazed at how little moments happened where it felt like the crowd was giving stuff away. Because from our point of view, without the noise isolating headphones on, motherfucker, the crowd was so loud and trying to give away everything they could. I mean, it is just essentially soft cheating. But in moments like this, right, where the crowd is loud and then Boaster ends up getting the kill, that smoke was fading in 4 seconds. So I'm not even sure whether you'd have to talk to Boaster and ask him whether or not that was based on the crowd cheering or whether it was based on him just spamming into the smoke. But I felt like there were many, many moments where someone's crosshair is literally over someone in a smoke, the crowd is going nuts, and they're not spamming. And I think that part of that is because you don't know exactly which of the 5 players they're cheering about. And when you're in the moment, you're not trying to, zone into whether or not the crowd is louder. They've got white noise being pumped into their ears constantly too. Like, it's pretty effective at getting rid of a lot of the crowd noise, though you can definitely still hear when they're at their peaks and troughs. But I don't feel like, I felt like if anything, Loud were talking about anyway, their coach was talking about and the players were saying that they ended up being a bit jumpy when they were in front of the crowd. Like, they would go for plays that they wouldn't usually go for because they have this feeling of immortality because they've got 7,000 people behind them and the pressure of it all too. So I think playing in front of a crowd like this adds pressure no matter which side of it you're on. And that is something that doesn't tend to get discussed. It's only that it gets applied to the away team.
It's fully like the same argument as like emotional players, like who ride the highs of a hype moment and then they tilt very easily. It's the same type of balance like that a crowd gives you, in my opinion, where there's highs, there's lows. Like if you have a moment that you're about to pop off and then you don't, and then the crowd just kind of deflates, then that hurts just as much as you popping off in that moment and giving you the motivation that like
the Alpha Air 1v2 where everybody in the crowd just goes like 100% the Loud players are there thinking we have fucked this, and the crowd is, the little voices that are inside your head are hard enough to push away when that's all you can hear. And when you also have everybody else in the arena reinforcing what your own internal like bad thoughts are saying to you, holy shit, that's difficult to get over.
Hypoc and I were going down to the main arena area, like the very front, like right outside the stage, to watch the winning moment of Loud making the reverse sweep comeback. We wanted to be there. And as soon as we went down there, they won 1 round. And as that silence just felt like it was compounding the entire time. And I can't imagine how that was affecting the players. Like, before that, it was getting louder and louder and louder. Like, we are about to have this crazy moment in Valorant history. Like, I'm sure everybody in the crowd was thinking it. This is amazing. We're sitting in this hot box. We're dying, but our home team is going to do it. And then it slowly got worse and worse and worse. And I imagine that affected the players tremendously.
You're saying it's your fault, Kurt, huh? You went down to the bottom and they didn't win a round. Don't come to Brazil.
Do not go to Brazil. Don't go back. Bali, you were mentioning when we were talking, when we were on the desk for that final, you were like, this feels like the Boston Major. And it did. Yeah. For those of you that aren't CS fans, it was when Cloud9 came back in Boston to win NA's first and only major win in like a crazy fashion. It was one of like the wildest esports moments. And it felt like that for the home crowd. You could feel them building into it. And then like that all falling off, like that almost certainly has an effect on the players when you hear that noise disappearing, and it just is kind of, like you're saying, compounding the feelings that you're already having. So I think there's always going to be a plus and a minus for the crowd, and I think in a way it's always going to even out enough. People have gotten really angry on the internet about the crowd yelling and like the soft cheating or whatever, but that always happens at crowd games. It never has that big of an impact. People will always be pissed at it, but honestly, in my opinion, it's just kind of part of playing in a stadium where one team has a home advantage, and hold that L, I guess. Like, it's not a big deal.
There's also, just by the way the broadcast works and by the way the production works, the screens that the crowds are watching, by the way, are like 1.5 to 2 seconds delayed. And yeah, sure. Like at first when I noticed that, I was like, oh fuck, that gives spoilers by looking down at the players or whatever. But everybody's glued to that screen. So like the crowd is reacting on stuff that's 2 seconds late already, potentially 1.5, whatever the time might actually be. There's already inherent anti-crowd cheating measures in place, which is good. And then I agree with Mimi. Like it happens. It's not that crazy. In most instances, like Josh said, they're cheering for something that nobody fucking knows who the fuck they're talking about anyway. So it's like, oh, does everybody start shooting their own smoke? Like, no, you still have to fucking, like, even if you naturally think, oh, they're cheering because somebody is in front of me, like, you still have to think, oh, should I shoot? Because then I give away my position, and what if they're shooting for somebody else? You know, it's like, it's really difficult to have that.
Also, when you're in that position, like, as a player, like, you're trying your hardest to just, like, drown out the crowd, pump up the noise of your teammates in your headset, like just fully focus on what's going on. And if you allow yourself to like try and like analyze everything that's going on in the game on top of every noise the crowd is making in relation to it, I think if anything, it's going to hurt your gameplay. So all good.
And speaking of all good, shout out to the Brazilian fans booing the non-home teams. I love that. I love the dynamic between you are
what
our
a great
guest.
segue.
We don't like you. I love it. And not to, like people still showed up for other teams as well. Obviously, what was it? The Rio Major in CS:GO. There was like just no one showing up for any of the games because there was no Brazilian teams. I think that is a problem. But boo them. Cheer the home team, boo the away team. That's how it's got to be. I love it.
Yeah.
I love the dynamic.
I agree with that completely. I also love that they booed the watch parties that were on the screen. Like every time they saw the Fnatic watch party, they're booing. But also the narrative that was going on online that I noticed whenever any of this conversation would come up was that, oh, they're only turning up for the Brazilian teams. And I thought that was the case too when I was in person, up until there was the first weekend game where there was no Brazilian teams happening. I can't remember exactly what that was, but it was one of the Saturdays, and I think it was like 100 Thieves. Was that?
Yeah, and it was
Saturday?
like an almost
that was
full
a Sunday.
crowd.
Yeah, and it was a popping crowd when there was no Brazilian teams there at all. So I think actually the correlation from being there in person seemed to be much more based on, is it a work day? Is it work hours? Is Carnival going on? Rather than, is there a Brazilian team there? Now, obviously, the noise in the venue was much larger when there was a Brazilian team playing. But the difference between, like, Loud in the final versus, NRG in the final or something, I think the arena still would have been full and it would have been a good crowd. It just wouldn't have been ludicrous. And it would have been more like, a Copenhagen crowd or something like that we've seen in the past where, yeah, the arena's full and people are enjoying the game, but they're not, utterly passionate, driven and crying when their team loses, It's not that level to 11. So I think the Brazilian crowd is getting way too much shit on them for only caring about their own teams when they actually were turning up whenever it was the weekends. You could see it when we were there in person. It was directly correlating with the weekday weekend effect.
There was that Energy Loud DRX Talon like drop off significantly on the same day where that was a weekend
Sure.
and whatever. But yeah, I mean, I fully agree. Like, been way too much shit for, and even in instances that they don't show up for other teams, like I don't really care that much. Like there's a difference between esports events and sports events, sure, like I get that, but esports events are so unique in the fact that you have to buy tickets for a random occurrence that, yeah, maybe your team isn't there. And sure, some people will probably still go, but that's just also not necessarily a guarantee that like every fan is going to want to care for every single team. And I also think that esports in general right now is much more influencer, much more player focused, much more organization focused than it ever has been, in the sense that like back in StarCraft, it's like, oh, we're really going for IGL Pro League or fucking whatever, or the E-League Major or whatever. In this case, like I think most people are now going for Loud. They're going for Tarek. They're going for fucking Gaules or whatever.
I mean, just like look at like the makeup of the crowd, of how many people had like Loud jerseys on when they were there. It was fucking everyone. Like there are a lot of Valorant fans in Brazil, but also there's a Burger King menu item that is the Loud burger. Like Loud is kind of everything in that region. It is like the org. So it's understandable that people want to show up and are more willing to watch their own team than like DRX versus Talon. Like it's just a lot easier to be emotionally invested when it's your home team.
And you should want that. You should want that passion too.
Yeah.
So like the opposite, where you want generic fans, okay, well then they're not going to be as passionate, is not the right thing. And also when you bring up, Josh, the fucking watch party booing thing too, that just put in my head the vision of an actual fucking other audience, another stadium filled with Fnatic fans somewhere, fucking booing back whenever the crowd is on the other. That is very much a possibility in this esport, where we have 3 international events a year or whatever, and people are going to prep for that type of idea. People are going to continue to boost the watch party idea, and we could actually just fucking genuinely have home and away crowds and have a solution against people not showing up to games in their home country when there's no home team playing. That is fun still. I think you just have to live in that time.
Yeah, this makes me hope just so badly that we get road shows for the international leagues. Like imagine having like an America's like final weekend, like I don't know if you guys know about like with League for their like big international events, they like jump around to different places. Like Worlds this year was in Atlanta and in New York and in San Francisco, and they change around. Like imagine like an America's like final weekend where like you go to New York, you go to like you go like Mexico City, you go Brazil, and you get like the different crowds in different places. Like I know that's a huge thing to ever happen, but getting to have those different crowds and cash in on those different audiences and lean into the fact that people are going to be biased towards their teams is awesome.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen with Valorant is I think people are going to be fans of regions, and people from like Gen.G fans are going to be rooting for Loud fans. Maybe that is unrealistic to think, but I see it. I see people being hard in favor of their region no matter what. I think that's a very hopeful outcome, because the counterpoint to all of this is that if the teams are not doing well that are in the home region, the crowds are going to be kind of mid. And you really don't want that.
The Tokyo crowds are still going to be popping, even though there's no
Yeah.
Japanese teams there.
True, but I think that's a special case. I don't think it's going to be like that really anywhere else. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. Yeah, enough about Loud, enough about the crowd buff. Let's talk about who we think is the number 2 team in Americas. Josh, you were saying that you might think Loud is potentially the number 2 team, even though they were the top performing America's team.
Well, I wouldn't rank them at number 2 at the moment, right? But I think at the end of this split, it's very possible that you could see Loud in number 2 or even number 3 position. Because I actually think the top 3 is so stacked in Americas currently. To me, it looks like, from the outset, that we've got Loud, NRG, and Leviathan as the 3 teams that are really going to do something. I think Cloud9 had a chance at being up there too, but what they showed was... Well, but what they actually showed at lock-in was, they had some maps that they would fucking destroy on. They looked like the best team in the world on them. Some teams where they disappeared, and now they've broken up their roster, so who gives a fuck anyway? But the top 3 looks really intriguing for Americas. And I could definitely see any of the 3 of them actually winning it when it comes to the online, or not online, but like I guess what are we going to call it? The regular season portion?
Regular season.
Yeah, the regular season portion, I could see any of the 3 of them coming out on top, heading into the top seed into Tokyo.
So I want to talk about NRG. I think this topic should be, I guess, could be reserved for those 3 teams. We've already talked about Loud. So let's talk about NRG and then Leviathan. How do you guys feel about NRG's performance in lock-in? If they were to beat Loud, do you think they would have made the grand finals?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it.
Good, short, concise.
That's
Let's
it.
move
Thank
on.
you.
Next topic.
So I guess like another huge point for NRG is that they made 2 big changes. They added Artis and Som. I don't think too many people had much expectations for Som. He played all of the controllers and he overperformed on pretty much every single map. And Artis lived up to the hype. He was fantastic in the tournament. Do you think that these 2 new additions to the team are going to get even better with time, or was it just a flash in the pan? Was it a honeymoon period?
I kind of disagree with the term lived up to the hype for Artis.
Okay.
Because I think the hype for Artis was, Ye was a chamber player. He could play chamber really good, but we never saw him on any other agents. I think most people's expectation was like, holy shit, NRG has became Artis. This is going to expand their agent pool. They have someone who can play Raze really well, can play Jet really well, can play KO, can flex onto a controller. Who knows? He can do it all. But what we actually saw, I feel like, was Artis having some really good maps on Jet and looking like a star, but still not really matching that Ye superstar level, and playing maps where he's flexing onto the KO or Raze, and he looks good, but not great. Not up to that like insane like star power that people expected out of him. Still, I think Som's individual performance helped make up for that. Like, he absolutely showed up much more than people expect. But this NRG team, I think, at least from what we saw at this initial event, looked like a solid squad. Looked like a team with some good ideas, some good coordination that implemented their new players well, but didn't feel like they have that same absolute insane, like, star potential to pop off in the same way that I saw from Leviathan and from Loud.
I want to dig a bit deeper into that too, because I had the same initial impression as Mimi that NRG were very feast up famine based on where Artis was. But I think what he actually showcased from his Raze on Pearl was really good. He was pounding in that game.
He was.
Where it was Loud that they were playing against, right? He went fucking bonkers. He was keeping them in it, had so many great moments. And then his Jet, I mean, we don't need to talk about it. It was just fantastic, right? But then I think the big problems were probably more to do with compositional choice than they were to Artis's comfortability on them. Like, I think that it doesn't really make sense, even though Artis was fine on the Sage on Icebox, to have him playing that when he has the potential to be your star player. I don't think it makes too much sense to have him playing the Sage and be playing this very like structured system. They still actually found a bunch of success with that, so fair enough. But it makes even less sense to me when you see him playing the Killjoy on Lotus. Yeah, I'm sure he can play it, but I don't think you're getting the best out of him there. On Split, I'm not even going to dig into that because I think they utterly trolled their whole game plan. And I don't think that like Artis's KO or whatever the hell he was playing on that map was the reason that they lost by any means. But I think that there is more unexplored potential in getting value out of Artis's flexibility. But the question is, when Artis takes a step back, if you want Artis to take that like more supportive role on the team, or a role where he's just kind of filling a gap, then who actually becomes the big player, like the star player? And it felt like on Icebox, you're getting huge performances out of Som, so you're actually kind of making up for the fact that Artis isn't there. But on Lotus and on Split, I don't know even who was supposed to be in that kind of position. Is that where Victor's supposed to be popping off or something? I don't know. I didn't get it. I didn't understand the game plan. It feels to me like they get much more value out of just having comps working around Artis being in that playmaking position.
Yeah. And it's interesting to contrast it to old NRG too, because when they were Optics, so much of their setup was built around like okay, we have Yay Chamber, and we're gonna put Victor on dive. We're gonna build these setups around like creating space for him to walk up, get a kill with Chamber, be able to teleport out, whatever, finding so much value for him. And in this one, it feels like it was kind of the team identity in question. And if you compare that to some of the other Americas teams that are in the running for top 3 at this tournament, it is strikingly different. Leviathan really leaned into putting Taco on the Raze on the Jet, putting a lot of resources into him. It was the same thing with Loud and Osbos. Well, there were those moments we talked about earlier where he was kind of off doing his own thing. It was a little bit weird. They were still trying to invest in compositions that let him be that star. I think NRG can make it work with this current approach where they are leaning into more flexibility, more structure. I think FNS is a great caller who is good enough to get that done. And it's clear that they put in the work to get to a really high level with that. But it does feel like the resources might be better used with some change to that.
I don't even know. I think maybe you just are able to full send artists on Jet Rays and whatever. But for me, it was like the flexibility. It feels like they have so much flexibility that they're trying to go deeper than they should. And I was looking at the symptom of the Killjoy more than anything, and not necessarily artists' roles. Killjoy was swapped between Finesse, Crashes, and Victor all randomly throughout the maps as well. And I think that was the weird spot that was causing them to have weird places where Victor was playing Raze and Artist was playing KO or whatever, because they weren't really clear on who would play the Killjoy. But maybe it's just both. Maybe they're just way too flexible in general. I don't know if that's actually even going to be sticking. I mean, obviously we've seen them be good at a variety of different things now too. So like they just have to choose one, right? And then what? Then they're gonna be able to reach their peak. So I don't necessarily even see it as a problem overall either. Maybe just on their performance at this event.
All right, let's segue the discussion to Leviathan, I guess. I actually, before we go do that, let's talk about Som, because we haven't really touched on him at all. At least I was taking a bathroom break, but he was popping off. Like, at least there was a lot of highlight moments from him. I think him playing 5 different controllers, all the controllers in the tournament, is pretty impressive. I don't think too many people had many expectations for him going to the tournament. How do you feel about him going forward with NRG? Is he going to be a star player, or is he going to fall off? Was this a honeymoon period for him, or what?
I think he's going to be good. I mean, I didn't have that high expectations for him because he's just so new to the smokes role. He hadn't really played it whatsoever. And mostly what I'd seen from Som is kind of like run it down mid, brainless duelist behavior in his matches. That was the epitome of Som gameplay that you were getting from him when he was on NRG in the past. They played their best when Som was fully empowered to go and take as many duels as possible and was supported by the team, like playing super aggressive. And that to me didn't seem like it was going to go well into becoming this controller player. But his decision making was smart. He's clearly got a huge amount of skill. And his teammates were supporting him very well. Like the highlight plays that he would get around yellow, his teammates are distracting for him and making sure he only has to look at one angle. He's never left on his own. He's always just, darts are getting broken for him. His crosshair is just focused forward at all times. And I think that he's probably just going to get better and better on the role. I think that he'll be asked to do a bit more in the future in terms of like the supporting his teammates in other more fluid scenarios too. I think that his utility's only bound to improve. I think he's going to continue being a very good player for this squad. I think he's going to be up there as one of the best controllers in the region.
Agree. So I'm good.
So is this NRG team better than Leviathan from what we've seen? Leviathan obviously being the other team that we're going to be talking about here as the number 2 team in Americas. Is NRG better than Leviathan? A lot of the Scrimbucks were saying going into the tournament that this team is going to win. Multiple players have tweeted like King is the best player in the world. Leviathan is unstoppable. I think Som tweeted, I've never been destroyed so hard by a team when I was playing against Leviathan. They fell short. Why?
Well, I mean, those rumors are a lot of them are coming from the games against NRG as well. So, like, you know, there's like a distinct weirdness in talking about Leviathan versus NRG domestically, because the NRG players are just gassing this team up like there's no tomorrow. I think Leviathan looked really strong up until they didn't, which is pretty similar to the performance that they'd had in a previous tournament too. But their map pool to me just doesn't look good enough at the moment to be lifting a trophy or winning something incredible. They have like Ascent where they look really good, and then what else? They looked like okay on Haven, but not amazing. I mean, they still went like 16-14 or whatever it was against Vitality. What other maps did they actually demonstrate being good at?
Yeah, for me, I just like there's all these rumors and they have insane player quality, and they just there's just nothing else. There's no other it factor to their game compared to a Navi, compared to a Fnatic, compared to an Energy. Like they just have insane player quality, and that's great. But where is that scrim bucks coming from? And are you ever going to show it in a game? Whereas like other teams that have had good scrim reputation or whatever leading into events like Gambit or whatever, some other teams, I always look at the officials and then go, oh wow, there's real stuff there. Like this is really well thought out. And it's been the same with owner-led teams before, where I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't get why this team is able to do what they do, and also why people are so hyped about them in the first place.
I think a lot of what it is, and what's been a case with other owner teams in the past, is just like they don't have any crazy insane answers to the meta. They don't have any like deranged, like hyper insane IGL who's making like the perfect call to like circumvent something. But what they do have is a team with insane player quality that has really, really focused heavily on just like being on the grind set of drilling their fundamentals and being fairly structured in the way that they're just like taking space, executing sites. Like it feels like Leviathan, if they are like something, it's just like the epitomes of like, we always meme on like the Fundies team or something like that. But there's no like crazy it factor. I agree with that. But what they have is 5 players that are all really good and can pop off, and solid coordination between them. Like they have good utility on their executes. Their mid rounds are solid. They got overcooked a couple times, but generally I think King was making some good decisions, particularly on their ascent, but there wasn't that depth. And I think that goes back to the map pool discussion. Their fracture looked tragic. It looked like they had like absolutely like no idea what they wanted to do on their defensive side to take space and shut down Navi's game plan. They just froze in that one. So I think this team should be top 3 off of those previous factors, because I think just those things are enough to push them over the line against most of the other Americas teams. But I think some of the stuff we were talking about at NRG is there was some of that it factor. It's the FNS calling, which we've seen before. It was Psalm actually looking like a superstar. And I think it was some more interesting ideas out of that team, even if some of them didn't work out.
I think once we see more maps from this team, you might have a better understanding of like how good they actually are. Because I said they didn't demonstrate a good map pool, but they actually only played on 4 maps out of the entire tournament. And Fracture was one that they were second round banning every time. They first round banned Split every time. They second round banned Fracture, I think, every time as well. And ended up having it picked against them in the game against Na'Vi. So out of that, they didn't. The maps that should be kind of in the middle of their pool that we didn't get to see are Icebox and Lotus. Zeta banned both of those. Vitality banned both of those against them. And then in the Na'Vi game, they just kind of got left to the middle and not really picked until the very last round of bans. Both teams got rid of them. So I think maybe Leviathan are really good on both of those maps and just didn't feel like they should be going towards them in the veto or something. I think it's hard to say, because what really did them in at the end is that a lot of teams are incredible on Ascent. They are really, really talented on Ascent, but also so are Loud, so are Na'Vi, Fnatic are actually pretty good on Ascent now too, right? They ended up taking that map in the finals. So if your best map, if the map that you're known for is a map where other people are also insane, you just lose an inherent advantage in your map veto situations when you run into other top teams. You can smoke all of the low-level teams, but you need more depth.
Speaking of lower-level teams, we were hyping up 100 Thieves as potentially a world beater team. I think a lot of people going into this tournament, at least in North America, were like, this team's going to do it. 100 Thieves fell way short of NA's expectations. I personally was very disappointed in them. I think they made teams like EDG and Foot look really good. Were they really good? And then they got smoked by Fnatic. That was their tournament start to finish.
Remember that episode where we were ranking people's like reaction or how they would come out of from the chamber patch, and we were like, 100 Thieves, probably the best because they have Cryo, who's good on Jet, and so it's gonna be okay.
Meanwhile,
Nope.
Meanwhile, in the 100 Thieves lab, we shall buy a Jet player for an extraordinary buyout and then not play him on Jet. Like, what the fuck are they smoking out there? I don't know, man. It felt to me like weirdly the first desk that we did where I was looking at Cryo's games, we had Cryo's old coach Don Psycho on the desk with us too, and I was talking about like the integration of Cryo into the team and having a conversation with him. And it really felt like to me, and also, I don't want to put words into his mouth, but there was some agreement there too that 100 Thieves were forcing Cryo to adapt to their situation rather than picking up a star player and building around his strengths. They just used him as like another hyper flexible tool that they could have in their arsenal, where that's not what Cryo's demonstrated over the course of his career. He's demonstrated that he's still a young player that needs molding, but has insane talent on these like contact fragging based agents. Mate, watching Cryo play Raze was way worse than I thought it was going to be. I gave Cryo way more like, credit that he'd be able to pull off other duelist picks like that, but he was not supported to take good fights even when he was on agents like Jet, and then just kind of thrown to the wolves without looking that great on his other picks. Like the Raze in particular was very disappointing from an individual level.
Didn't he miss every single Raze ult that he shot in the entire tournament?
Yeah, my man needs to play some Quake Live.
That is not good. So going back on what I said earlier, do you guys agree that they made EDG look good? Did they make Foot look good as well? Or were EDG and Foot surprising teams? Because going into this tournament, I think a lot of people put 100 Thieves like way up there, partially because they had an easy route to the finals.
No, I don't think that they made them. I think those teams genuinely looked good, especially EDG particularly. That team was scary. I mean, Kang was a fucking beast, and Chichu as well. Like there was definitely moments in that where I'm just like, wow, EDG actually is a major threat. And I was actually surprised that 100 Thieves was able to put them down in the end, because they almost lost that game. Honestly, probably should have lost that game if it wasn't for like Stellar Heroics spamming through a Viper's Pit, which was a good play, but I don't think they made him look good. Not in the same way like
so?
Liquid made Secret look.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Liquid need to be investigated. But let's talk about 100 Thieves first, because I do think that 100 Thieves made EDG look a bit better. Because there's some stuff that I was expecting 100 Thieves to be really clean at, like their retakes on Pearl, for example, right? And actually what we saw was that their B retakes looked a lot better in the prior patch when they had Will in the team and they were playing at Champs than they did in this. Which round is this? The fucking silly round where Kang 1v2s them, 1v3s them on B, while they all just peek into him one by one when we don't even know whether they would have had time to plant on A. I mean, just fucking silly shit happening all over the place. I also don't think that this isn't just a criticism of 100 Thieves, but I think a lot of teams decided to play Lotus without really having a clue what they're doing on Lotus in this tournament. It's quite reasonable. I'm not saying that that's an unreasonable situation. It's a new map, a lot of different approaches to it, but there were a lot of teams that thought they had a good read on Lotus and they sucked. And I think 100 Thieves on their defense side had not a great understanding of what the hell they were doing on Lotus. And I think that made EDG look a bit better too. I think our expectations of 100 Thieves were that they should have been able to put a team like EDG to bed. I just don't think it was good enough from them, frankly.
Yep. I versus a team like EDG, you need to have like really good like structure and ideas and ability to like shut down when there's just like giga insane like
Another missed
stupid
cryo wall,
individual
by the way.
silly shit happening, and then they were unable to do so. And the foot series as well, I felt similar. Like their Lotus that you were talking about was really rough. Like even on their attacking side, I felt like they had like no idea of how to deal with Kiwi, and just like the foot game plan wasn't that insane. It was good, but it wasn't that insane. It's like, okay, half the time we're gambiting A long, we're putting down like a Sage Wall and having our Neon Tech space. The other half the time we're opping. And 100 Thieves was really, really struggling to get a grasp on that. I feel like their decision to go for the Fade Race comp, I didn't see the value versus some of the comps that other teams are pulling out. And it again goes back to the idea of it doesn't really feel like we're playing to our strengths with the new player we have picked up. I do still think that while they have fallen very, very short of expectations in this one, this isn't a all is lost, explode the team kind of situation. This is a, okay, guys, we had kind of a bad read on the meta. We struggled to implement cryo, but I think that as you've seen in the past with 100 Thieves, this is a core that is very, very good, that is very flexible. You have players like Asuna, like Stellar, who can play a variety of different roles. You can flex stuff around to make cryo more comfortable. And I think this team can be good, but they definitely did fall giga short of what we expected, because we expected the moon from 100 Thieves.
I also think that the yeah okay, so they're gonna pop off at Masters. There's 3 spots. They need to break into top 3 to go to Masters in the first place, and they are not favored to get there.
So a Redditor, for the audio listeners, a Redditor, I believe his name is Eat Shit Bob Ross, made a 100 Thieves cycle, and it's just essentially a cycle around the 100 Thieves logo of what is going to happen with 100 Thieves. Right now, they're struggling with Masters 2 lock-in. Apparently, they're going to pop off in Berlin/Tokyo. They're going to kick Stellar after that for some reason. CS2 is going to come out. They're going to lose Derek to that. And then they're going to go back to having a dysfunctional team by getting some PUBG players, Baby J and Eccles.
Oh, well, that's just talking about the prior.
I don't know if this really
squads,
makes
yeah.
sense as a cycle, actually. This is more of
It's
just a
happened
timeline.
twice. We are in the 3rd cycle right now.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's worked so far.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I think though that for the big takeaway from me is that there's now a lot of pressure actually for the Stellar Mike's HD core to revamp what they're doing, because things were working really well under the former structure of Sean, Mike, Stellar, and things were extremely drilled, and they had a lot of like go-to strats. You know, the way that we were talking about Fnatic, where we said that a lot of the focus was actually taken off Boaster's shoulders a bit by having like very good ideas of what they want to do coming into the rounds. And so Boaster can call like, hey, we're going to go for this set plan, and every player knows like, okay, this is what we do in this set plan. This is what we do. It's very protocol focused. It's very set play focused as well. That's how 100 Thieves used to be. All of their retakes, super heavy protocol focused. A lot of strats that they were calling from the book instead of just from Stellar's head. I didn't see that level of game plan in their games. I didn't see a really concrete idea of what was going on. And I think that, you know, Stellar's talked about it in his interview with Wyatt, and then also Mike's has talked about it in his interview with Richard Lewis as well, that they've actually gone into a less set play heavy structured system underneath Stellar, because that's the way that Stellar likes to call. Well, to me, that you've got to show results at the end of that, right? Like if Stellar's been put in a position where he is now, you know, more comfortable making those kind of calls, that's all well and good, but you've taken away your strengths of the super set play protocol heavy stuff. So now you actually have to make up for it with better calling than you had in the past. Yep. And while Stellar himself looks more comfortable, I don't think that the calling looked better. And now that's really where the pressure lies with Stellar and Mike's, is getting the value from that other area as you head into the split. They need to be out calling teams and being more fluid and making those good adjustments if they're going to let go of a lot of the set protocol heavy stuff that they were doing well.
Which is why, like, it was, well, actually, like, in hindsight, maybe why they had such a good result at Red Bull was actually they hadn't moved away from it yet, and they were just kind of slotting cryo into specific spots where, you know, there was protocol or whatnot, because they looked very good at that tournament. That's part of the reason why their expectations got so high in the first place. It was weird too, because I thought there was new stuff coming in from Mike, from Stellar in Red Bull entirely, and it didn't feel like they were too far away from that. So yeah, it's a weird shift, and I agree with you. Like they have to show results. Not that this isn't, you know, maybe this is the first notch of like, oh yeah, this is bad result or okay result, but it's not like I agree with Mimi. This isn't like, holy shit, we're all gonna fail. this is let's see what you can do in America's League, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
if not, like, let's see you pivot back.
Someone needs a hand nade shot at Juvie. Should keep his fucking hands occupied so he does not hit the explode the team button. Keep him away. Keep him away.
I was watching there was a clip somewhere of him like on a coach stream watching his team and being like, why the fuck is Cryo not on Jet? Why is he on Omen?
Dude, eventually he's gonna coach the team.
Mike and Stellar are in danger.
Quick, distracting with another revenue project. Quickly.
I mean, that's
Hey,
pretty smart.
I heard there were some layoffs if you want to go make those instead of dropping the team nade shot just around the corner.
So, you guys feel like this team at its core, it's fine. They just need to change the direction of the team.
Maybe. I think that the summary is that they need better plans for integrating Cryo in and playing to his strengths. And I think that they're going to achieve that by having a lot of that structure that they previously demonstrated, rather than just kind of throwing him in there. It didn't really, like, a lot of the time Cryo is away from what the rest of the team are doing, and they're just trying to passively get value out of him, like, opping an angle on Pearl or something. Or, even when he's integrated, it's not playing to Cryo's strength, he's just another piece of the puzzle. Like, he's not a great trading supportive player. He's a star that you're supposed to, put on the best angles possible, get value out of him early in the round, and then other people can pick up the pieces.
All right, speaking of puzzle pieces, Cloud9, they seem to have it put together. They seem to have, they seem to be assembling their puzzle. Their puzzle to win a championship. This is a terrible metaphor. I'm trying to make this work. I'm really trying, but it fell apart. And they lost Yay, Vanities to follow. Rumor has it they lost some sort of crypto sponsorship and they can't afford them anymore. I'm not really sure exactly what is going on with Cloud9, but things do not look good.
Can I start this off by saying, my take, having watched the whole tournament, was that Cloud9 probably had the best Pearl and Lotus out of all the teams at the event. And I think that is a really hot take because you can't test it, right? Because they got knocked out so early. But the comps that they were running on that map and the way that they were so fluid with helping each other, and they were really fucking weird compositions too. But they looked nasty good on both of those comps, on both of those maps. And then they just explode after dominating DRX in map 1, 13-3. And bye-bye, never see them again. Bye-bye, never see this team again. Bye-bye, Yay doesn't have a team. Like, it's the fucking stupidest Cloud9 shit I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, they've been a part of two of the most mysteriously awkward trades in Valorant history so far. Valorant's a pretty young game.
This one wasn't even a trade. We're just like, okay, yeah, it's free to go. Have a nice life, man. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I would agree though, Lotus, especially about Lotus, maybe not about Pearl. I think Loud's Pearl, Energy's Pearl. Not
Yeah,
DRX
fair enough,
Pearl.
fair enough.
But yeah, fucking weird. I don't get what's going on. The fucking video that they put out, hilarious, hilarious. The fucking Jack Etienne, their owner, and fucking MC sitting next to him, both saying, yeah, we dropped Yay because of role issues that we've been working through for quite some time, by the way. And
Mate, Jack at the end, you can't see his hands in this fucking picture because he's got a fucking gun underneath pointed at MCE. Motherfucker, say it was role issues. Say it was role issues. It's prime bullshit. That's what it is.
Is that a new Twitch feature?
Look
So
at his
why
face.
So why is Yay
Look
gone?
at his face. He's blinking in Morse code. The answer.
So why is Yay gone? They can't afford him anymore? What is the real reason?
Every America's CEO is gonna hate us after this episode. Which other CEOs can we get to hate us?
I mean, yes, the word on the street is that Cloud9 couldn't afford Yay's salary, and they've decided to let him go as a result of that. And the fact that they're blaming this now on role issues, to me, is fucking laughable, because there's just no way. I think, Bala, you posted a tweet about it. Like, there's simply no way in which you decide to drop a player of his caliber for role issues after a result like this. There's a massive fuck up happened at some point in the organization. And so, the Cloud9 have also, on their website, I did some small, light level digging. And like you said, Kurt, there was some talk about them losing sponsors recently. If you look on the Wayback Machine,
No way, you went on the way back.
Yeah, the way back machine. No, they had a partnership with blockchain.com that was started on the 3rd of February 2022. I assume that was a 1-year partnership because that's about when the branding disappeared from the Cloud9 website as well. Although weirdly, blockchain.com still lists them as a partner on their website, so I don't fucking understand that at all. But I would assume that partnership has disappeared. And also BMW, who was previously a big name sponsor of the organization, and actually a bunch of different esports organizations. BMW decided to cut all of its spending on esports in the whole of 2023. And they were sponsoring a bunch of different teams like T1, G2, Fnatic, Cloud9, a bunch of other teams too. So Cloud9 have also gotten rid of their branding on their website for Puma, who they were previously partnering with to make apparel and stuff as well. So I don't know whether someone has, from the Cloud9 side, maybe this is, them losing these sponsors, or maybe it's from the organization's side of like not seeing esports as a valid tool when there's a recession on the horizon as well, because that's what a lot of other people in esports have been talking about, the fact that marketing budgets are some of the first to pull out in those kind of situations. But whatever the reasoning, the word on the streets very heavily is that Cloud9 were having financial issues and were not able to support Yay, and that is a fucking ridiculous situation to have found themselves in. Like, not being able to, it just is absurd that you would find yourself in a situation where the best player in the world of 2022 now probably is not going to be on a team, right? Like, he's probably not going to be on a team because the value that he provides to the team, people don't have freedom in their budgets to that degree anymore because they've already picked up other players that will have severance fees or contracts that require them to be paid money even when they're put on a bench or something. Like, it's not so simple for everyone to just cut their star player down the chain and leave someone on a fucking, the kid that's left out at the end of this situation.
3 weeks from the fucking split starting. Like,
yeah. It just seems like horrendous mismanagement at some level in the Cloud9 organization to allow this situation to occur. And the fact that Vanity's also on the way out too, I mean, there's no way that Vanity was commanding a massive salary. So what the fuck is that? Like, what's going on there? Did he quit out of protest? Are the salaries, is the financial situation really that dire? Did he just disagree with the direction of the team afterwards? I don't fucking know, but this is a prime Cloud9 clown fiesta territory. The same way that it was at the beginning of last year, where they look set up for success and then fucking fall flat on their face within a couple of months. And then they're just going to be probably quite a shit team for the rest of the year.
Don't forget.
Oh, Leaf and Zeppa, what a tragedy. They're left on a bad team again. I mean, it's just absurd.
Don't forget when they lost tens as well, when he just decided, hey, I don't want to play for your team anymore, by the way.
Yeah.
To suck.
Number 3, third time trolling. Like, ugh. I mean, I think it is literally just C9 management issues. Esports not financially solvent issues. Still feels like just so troll. Like, how much were they paying him in the first place? How did they not have any foresight that this might be an issue in the future because there's a recession looming? Like, you have to be reasonable in your early negotiations or you're going to end up in these troll situations.
That's why I say, it has to be a monumental fuck up to because it's not just it's vanity. It's everything. Like, it's more than just, oh, we lost a sponsor. Like,
dude, it's actually driving me nuts even thinking about it, though, because Ye is the caliber of player where there is no world in which he doesn't have severance pay negotiated into his contract, right? And so they've actually had to fucking pay that severance pay in order to avoid paying him the salary for the rest of the year too. So it's them taking a fat financial L at the beginning of the year because they know that it's not going to be sustainable for them over the next 12 months. So they are just opting into a horrendous situation for the next year. This is not a short-term thing that they're going to bounce back from. This is them paying a lot of money to get rid of a star player that they originally paid a buyout fee for. Like, it's fucking ludicrous, man. It makes no sense. Even when George Geddes was talking about, I think it was George Geddes, that the buyout fee was not as big as Cryo's, right? That was something that he tweeted, that it wasn't, the largest buyout fee of the offseason or anything like that. So the buyout fee for Ye, the again, word on the street is that it was under $500,000, which might not, I mean, without some level of context, maybe those numbers don't mean too much, but that is not like the Cloud9 buyout for, or rather the Sentinels buyout for tens was 1.25 or something mil.
Something absurd.
That is. It like I think it had a 250k loan for the first Masters, and then it was a mil after that. It got reported, and that's for when the game was in a smaller state. Salaries were smaller as well. Although tens does have, huge content creation value to the organization as well. But the fact that you have managed to, get yourself into a situation where you're paying a fuck ton of money for a player and then just immediately dropping them a couple of months later is madness.
Do you guys think that Riot was worried about this? Because I don't think Cloud9 was going to be in the franchise league until the Andrew Tate situation happened with G2, right? They were the team that got slotted in after. So
yeah, that
Riot was
report,
probably worried about this type of stuff from Cloud9, which is why they were not originally added to the franchise league.
But I feel like, how could you have been worried about this kind of situation? Because Cloud9 in the past has been a leader in terms of getting sponsors online and selling against their organization. Like in the history of Cloud9, you would expect them to be one of the, at least from my outside perspective, one of the most stable organizations to have as a partner. So I'm not even really sure. I don't get it why they weren't in the first round of partnerships in the first place. But maybe this is like something that was spotted internally that isn't easily visible from the outside. I don't know. Very fucking weird situation though. And they've essentially trolled the entire league in Americas.
Real quick. Is he going to NRG?
No.
No.
Is he going to any franchise team in NA? Is there a chance that he goes outside of NA or America's?
He's going to be EG's 11th man.
Okay, so I just want to... I want to pose a question, right? You are a fictional GM here, Kurt, right? And so just to answer this question, like where could he go? You're a fictional GM. You already have a star player, right? You have someone. It can be anyone, artists, Cryo, fucking somebody over in EMEA, CNED, whatever. But you're paying them a certain amount right now. It's probably less than you should be paying somebody like Ye, but obviously Ye's value has gone down because there's less opportunities. But anyway, you have a certain amount that you're paying them in salary. They've almost certainly, if they're a star player, negotiated some kind of severance fee into their package. So if you want to drop them or want to put them onto the bench or whatever, then there's going to be some cost involved in that anyway. So it's going to cost you money to get Ye into the team. And then it's also going to cost you at least the same amount of money in salary, because I don't really see you being able to get Ye for less. Maybe if Ye's desperate to play, then his salary would reduce until the point where it would reach an equilibrium in the market like that. But are you really going to get rid of somebody that's currently already working with you, pay their fee to sever them, and then add Ye to your roster? Who's going to do that?
I have no idea.
It's going to cost you so much money to do that.
Who are the English-speaking teams that he could even join? Like in Americas, all right, there's EG, 100 Thieves, Sentinels, NRG. Sentinels is not fucking dropping tens to pick this guy up. Not possible. NRG, I can see no world where they drop artists to pick him back up, because I'm sure artists cost a hell of a lot of money and the severance would be very expensive. Does EG have enough money to pick him up? Would Ye even want to go that direction? 100 Thieves isn't going to want to get rid of Cryo. Like, it feels like he's out of options. In Americas, you go international, and even then, who are you, like, global esports Ye? Who's left in like
so
franchising?
Awesome. Do it. That would be so awesome.
I mean, Bleed have previously been throwing their cash around. I mean,
what about teams like the Guard? They have a ton of money.
Yeah, they just fucking
They
fired
used to
everybody
have a
from
ton
their
of money.
organization.
right.
They used to.
They
don't anymore.
they still have a ton of money. They just don't want to spend it anymore.
Yeah, the parent organization does, but it's not being given to the
Crunky
kids.
bucks dried up. They will not allow it. Like the thing is,
I think the only reasonable scenario is if a team has a star player that has something in their contract that either means that they have a very low severance fee or that they have like a drastically reduced salary if they're put on the bench. Like, if you're put on the bench, your salary gets cut to 50% or 20% or something like that. If someone's got that in their contract and they're a star player to the point where it might make it feasible for Ye to join if Ye was on a very reduced salary, maybe you see a move like that happen.
Ye to Koi. You heard it here first. Ebay's about to drop the Bucks.
Yeah.
Replace Wolfen.
The Ebai
Koi.
Bucks. Get Wolfen out of there.
I
think the most likely scenario is that he just gets trolled.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Probably.
we're just not going to see the best player of 2022, 2023.
Is going to become a co-streamer.
We'll probably see him as the seasons goes on. Like right before roster lock, one team is like down in the dumps, and they're like, "Fuck, we got to make a change." Like 100 Thieves or something.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I
could
actually
see that
could see
happening.
that.
I
have to-
actually, yeah.
We have
But
to
he's not
speed
going to play
things-
opening day.
We got to speed things along because Wilkinson has an appointment to attend in a few minutes. So I want to do one more topic before we get into our tier list. And Bala, I kind of want to bring this to you.
Uh-oh.
Who was the most disappointing team in lock-in?
Team Liquid. Team Liquid. Team Liquid. It's not even close. It's Team Liquid. So sad. Well, worst performance out of even the teams that I expected to be bad and did play bad. It's still Team Liquid. That was the worst I think you could have ever seen anybody play at a lock-in tournament for partnerships.
Oh my god!
It was so bad. Like people didn't know where to go. People weren't breaking darts. People weren't doing anything. Team Liquid looked so troll, and the only saving grace was Nats, of course, which is crazy because Safe is on this team, and I really like Safe. And Redgar is a good IGL, but he didn't show it at all, not even a little bit.
So right now, are they one of the worst teams in EMEA? Like bottom
Nah,
five?
still not on paper, no. But I mean,
If they play like that,
by the performance, I can't physically put Team Liquid bottom of the EMEA power rankings when we get there, but by this result, yes, I would.
I mean, they won 5 rounds on attack. They won 5 rounds out of 24 on attack. If you look at how they were pathing on the attack side and what they were doing and how they were covering for each other, I think if this was CS, there would be a match fixing investigation happening because that was fucking abysmal from Liquid. And I'm obviously I'm not saying that I really think that, but it's to that degree. It's like you watch the game and you're like, what the fuck is going on with these players? They've all played in top teams before, and they are just like they've been, you know the fungus that infects ants' brains and causes them to just walk in random directions until they eventually infect other ants and the fungus takes over. It feels like watching that when you watch Team Liquid play on their attack side against Secret. They have no clue what they're doing. They fell to pieces completely, and I didn't even think that their defense sides looked that horrible. But you can't play that badly with people that have won Masters events and made it deep in tournaments and won EMEA LCQ and all the rest of it. Like these are talented players, and they are just botting it up in the server on their Icebox and Fracture attack rounds. It was embarrassing. It was really embarrassing.
Plus, there was like not even any spark of innovation. There was no creativity. It was fucking weird. Genuinely, every single round, some player was trolling. Like some player was walking around like that ant.
The immediate
Fucking
question I
cordyceps.
have is why are they so bad? Like obviously teams that are fully revamped, or I wouldn't say fully revamped, they just have 3 new players. Still pretty big changes. Why was it so much harder for Liquid compared to other teams that have made similar role changes? And do they have any chance at being that 4th team going into Tokyo?
Why is a very difficult question. I'm not sure why they looked so bad. I think that they look like when they've put the team together, they haven't. I mean, it looked like they hadn't scrimmed together for very long, but I don't know whether that's true or whether that's just because, the practice hasn't been particularly effective. But it looked like they hadn't gone over the basics. It may be because some players that were, that have changed roles don't quite understand what's expected of them in their new role. Or maybe, on Liquid, someone else was doing something important. And now that these 2 cores have joined together, that's not being done anymore. Whether that's like someone's pushing forward to defend the
Scream was
spike.
doing
or-
everything correctly. Holy shit.
I just mean in terms of player roles, right? Like when you blend two rosters together, there's no guarantee that you get the player that would always, cover the top angle on Icebox or whatever. Or there's no guarantee that you always get the player that would be playing really aggressive and drawing attention towards themselves to allow the spy plan to go down. Like the small things that make a team coherent on the attack sides, they have to be talked about and thought through, not just randomly assume that everything's going to work when you shove 5 players together. And to me, it just looked like they'd been shoved together. I mean, it looked very out of sync.
It felt like they literally just put the team in the oven for 3 seconds, took it out, said it was fully baked, said it's good to go. It felt like maybe it wasn't enough scrim time, maybe it was choky on stage, maybe it was a combination of that and other factors. We'll never know why, but surely this team can be saved. Surely it can be saved. They have some time before the EMEA League. They have a full month. Plus, they got sent home immediately, so they have a month and a half really to prep for this one. They have insane player quality. We've hyped these players up infinitely. They will be better than they were at this event because this event was rock bottom. But how much better can they get in this amount of time? I can't really answer that question.
The players didn't even look like they were in good form, though, right?
Yeah.
Nat's map 1 didn't look great, although map 2 he started showing off, why people respect him as a player so much.
It's also
Safe.
one series.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, the decision making was unusual compared to what you'd expect from a player of all the times that we've watched Nats in the past. And I think that Safe also on Fracture was getting caught in really odd scenarios where you just don't expect somebody that good to be stuck like that. I think a lot of it is going to come down to just the team that has no idea what each other are doing. So you just get caught in these weird situations.
When you said that shit about Safe getting caught out, it just reminded me of a round on Icebox where the fucking people were just bumping into each other while they're trying to get ready for an execute.
Yeah.
They were just fucking walking into each other like lemmings and falling off of pipes and jumping back up.
It was tragic. And people are telling me, oh, fucking biased casters saying liquids suck when they're supposed to be good. Motherfucker, this is the biggest fall off we've seen from any team ever compared to what they're supposed to be on paper.
I think we're giving too much of attention. They played one match, they lost it. Maybe they weren't taking the tournament super seriously. I mean,
that's my team, though, man. That's my.
I'm sorry. We'll see them in the split. See how they do. But we are running low on time. We can blame Wilkinson on that. He wants to spend time with family. I can respect that. But let's do our tier list. We got to do a tier list. But before we do the tier list, Sentinels. All right, the algorithm. Sentinels. We said Sentinels. Sentinels, DRX. What other teams that have clout?
Tens.
Zeta Division.
Shroud.
All right, cool. All right, let's go to the tier
Epic
list.
reactions.
So the way we're going to do the tier list here is I'm going to place a team in a tier, and you guys can tell me how wrong I am. Obviously, we have Fnatic at S tier. They won the event. They looked fantastic. Start with the 100 Thieves. I'm going to throw them right in B tier. How do you guys feel about that?
I think there's going to end up being too many teams in the B tier, to be honest. I think they were probably, as annoying as it is, the bottom level of A, but I think that might be too generous to them. They might end up being top B.
Very fair. I think they had a couple good ideas. They won some matches. The core looked good. The implementation of Cryo, pretty bad, but with time, faith in the team. I think middle of the pack, very reasonable.
Cloud9, I'm not going to judge their performance. I'm just going to put them in D tier. Yeah, let's just move on.
Reasonable.
DRX, I don't think they deserve S tier, to be honest. They played the maximum amount of maps possible this tournament before losing to Loud.
Yep. And also, their fucking post plants, their entire game plan on 2 maps are just fucking full sending post plants and just not having a great understanding of what else to do, which is weird given that we saw Loud literally use their same comps and do a completely different game plan. So I don't really get it. Not S tier.
We're not able to adapt the same way the other top teams are. No, it's fine. Move on. Let's speak.
Yeah, we're pumping through this list. We can make some adjustments afterwards. Evil Geniuses. People were clowning on them going into the tournament. They had some success. They look pretty good.
I think they were in the same tier actually as 100 Thieves. I think you need to make space for some of these dog teams. There's going to be some teams between 100 Thieves and EG for sure, but I think they're in the same tier actually.
Okay. I respect that. Leviathan with their old logo. By the way, one thing I noticed about this logo, you know how it's like expanded? There's like little lines and stuff. It says Leviathan around the outside.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is a very
Wow.
bad logo. I'm glad they took away the letters. I like when it's just the dragon. Anyways,
think-
I think they're A tier, higher than DRX, in my opinion. I think
A2
that
lower
they...
than DRX.
Lower than DRX.
Lower
You're
than
trolling.
DRX?
They don't have enough of a map pool that they've demonstrated yet.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I still think they are A tier.
tier.
I think those teams are fairly close. Liquid.
Oh wait,
Liquid
Kurt has to
D.
put-
D.
Liquid D put them below Cloud9. They would lose to Cloud9.
Below
With,
the shattered
They would.
remnants of Cloud9.
They would lose the
Yes.
3v5.
they would lose the 3v5 to
But
Cloud9.
surely they
No.
are better
No,
on
but we're rating it on
paper.
form. We're rating it on form we
On
saw.
form.
D.
What's
I'm
Cloud9 doesn't
rating
have
them
a
on
roster. What do
reality.
you fucking mean? Okay, all right, whatever. I
Who
won't
are,
win.
okay, fine. I'll just concede. BBL,
C.
they took a map off of DRX.
C.
Detonation Gaming, honestly,
D.
I don't remember a single round that they
Bottom
played.
D.
Furia, they looked impressive.
A. Low A.
No. I don't. I don't think they're A tier. I think they're probably. I think they're like around the same level as 100 Thieves.
Do you think
talk
they beat
about them?
100 Thieves?
I think they'd beat 100 Thieves. MW is the fucking truth. Digizin is the truth. They actually fucking creative with it too. I don't know. I didn't look into the details of the map pool or whatever. I can't make that argument, but better than 100 Thieves. Probably.
Creative, good adaptation. Digizin and MW Zera are fucking goats. They have good. They will be good. Better than 100 Thief have
Owned
good.
Wilkinson. Sit down.
Okay.
Sit down.
All right.
Speaking of good, Kiwi, I've never heard of this guy going into the tournament. Are we going to be seeing his name pop up more frequently?
Yeah,
now that
because we'll
we've
be
seen
playing a
him pop
match
off.
every week.
Is that?
I said yeah, because we'll be playing a match every week.
Shut up, dude. We don't cover EMEA on this podcast.
Yeah, I think they belong about there.
Probably, right?
I think you could argue for like bottom B, like below EG, but I think there will be too many B tier teams. So I think C is correct.
Okay. Gen.G, I did not watch their match, but apparently they were
good?
very good.
They're good.
Yeah, they're actually legit. I think they belong in the B tier. I think they actually weirdly impressed me about as much as EG, maybe a bit better, but we just didn't see enough of them. So I don't think you can put them too high because they only played one game, but they looked really fucking good.
All right. Global
Even has that.
Esports. Were any of you guys surprised by Global Esports performance? Obviously, the project that they are building is very ambitious, and they obviously didn't perform super well. But do you think they have potential going forward?
Yeah, I kind of do. I actually think they played a bit better than Foot even.
Really?
Because I think Foot had like a couple of maps where they popped off, but Global had like the first game where they just choked so badly, but their game plan was still actually really solid on Split. Their players were just choking like absurd amounts, and then taking a map off Vitality, and then I think they looked decent. I think it's somewhat equivalent with a team like Footballist actually.
Yeah.
Do you
I
think
stand by
SK
it.
Rossi is going to perform better over time? I think it seemed like he had the land jitters and like so much pressure on him as well to perform.
I think he will get better.
Yeah.
I think we even saw it within the series. He was giga shitting the bed on Split. He was actually having a lot of impact on Pearl. Like him and who's playing Jetta on that map? It was Texture. Him and Texture were having a lot of value on their defense, like pushing with the KO Jet. I don't love the comp that they were playing, but I think they played it well and they took a map off Vitality, which is impressive enough for me to put them in C and to see potential in the future with them.
Giants.
Mid B.
Not A? Mid B?
EG tier.
Really?
Yeah, maybe a bit
they
better
ga-
than EG.
They gave
Yeah.
I don't know.
better than EG.
I think EG. We've kind of brushed EG under the rug a bit, but they had some really good set play ideas. EG.
The Fade Yoru stuff was sick.
But all of their like actual teamwork and like the fundamental stuff kind of fell over. I think Giants are around the same level, but with different strengths.
I have a question real quick. Does Giants beat 100 Thieves?
No,
Yes.
no.
They have the
I don't think
explosivity that they have two explosive players that match the same level that are better than the same level of the teams that the 100 Thieves faced. I think Giants beats 100 Thieves.
I agree.
Oh, maybe.
Do they beat
Fuck.
Furia as well?
Fatinho dropped
No, they
what,
don't beat
36 on NRG? Like fucking went crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
Fatinho
they
is in fact the truth.
Then they got
And
kind
they
of
can actually play
blown out
Raze
the next two
and
maps,
Jet.
like completely.
Yeah, I didn't watch those maps.
Based, I guess.
Crew. Rumor
I don't
has
even
it
remember
Kesnet's coming
Crew.
back.
They just got dumpstered by Na'Vi. But yeah, with the addition of Kesnet, they should move. They should be at least a C tier team. But I don't know where, because they just got rolled by Na'Vi, and like I don't know, we didn't even get to see it.
Their Lotus was actually fairly close versus Navi. Like they almost came back in the second half. I
No,
don't really
they
remember
were in
that
the
game
lead.
very
It was
well.
9-3. They threw a
Oh, that
lead.
was the game they
Yeah.
choked when Navi had the insane second half. Okay.
Yes.
But also
Never mind.
Na'Vi were shit on Lotus defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. They were.
Also, I don't think Kesnet coming back to crew is good. I think that's a fucking chaotic move for Y after a fucking single elim tournament.
And they also played Red Bull and got smoked.
No, but they also didn't have their full roster there. The fucking Melzer wasn't even there.
Yeah.
I mean, this was Melzer's first tournament calling too. Like this was a lot of changes for them.
I think if Kesnet comes back in that team, I'd be fucking furious if I was that team right now.
I mean, it's happening.
And
I'm
they're
pretty
going to
sure.
replace Shant. Like, that's troll. Anyways, fine with the tier.
Carmine Corp. Where are we putting these guys?
Dude, I'm
S
telling
tier.
you, they're trolling, but they're actually all right. They're in the B tier, annoyingly.
Okay. Think they're better than
I
football?
don't know where. I mean, I think they should be at the bottom of the B tier.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they'd beat Footballist, but I hope they wouldn't beat Gen.G or EG.
All right, Carmine Corp B tier. Loud, I'm putting them in S tier. I'm liking
Yes.
what I'm seeing. I think they're going to keep getting better. I think you're going to be hard pressed to put them in A tier. MIBR, they had the crowd buff,
C tier.
but
He having a performance like that is just not something that you could actually rely on. Like, he's never going to be a reliable player if that's the case.
Yeah.
what do you mean? Did he underperform, overperform?
Map 2, his fractured neon was horrendous.
Yeah, he was really bad.
He did a lot of like trolling of just like pushing individually and like throwing rounds. It was a super winnable game for MIBR, and they did a little choking.
They
I
also
think
just
this-
didn't react at all to what Talon was doing, and Talon was like doing the same sort of thing over and over and over, and just wrecking them because of it. I don't know.
S tier, by the way, for Na'Vi.
S tier
Oh,
for Navi.
yeah. Easily.
hard agree.
Better.
Whoa. Don't
no,
put him
no,
above
no,
Loud.
no, no,
Don't put him
touchpad.
above Loud.
S tier for Navi, below Loud and Fnatic. NRG, can we put them in S tier right now?
Top
Yes.
end.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Below Navi. They would not beat Navi right now, you don't think?
That'd be a great game. I'd love to see them play
I would
against
love
each
to
other,
see
to be
that.
honest. I don't know though. I feel like you could. Yeah, I don't know. They belong up there though, in my opinion.
Paper
Paper
Rex.
Rex.
Talk about
Ooh.
disappointing teams. I had them in the disappointing teams category, but we kind of just wanted to rip on Liquid the whole time. But were you guys, how disappointed were you with Paper Rex? Do they deserve a B tier still, or what?
They would beat EG and lose to 100 Thieves.
Okay.
I fuck with that.
Yeah,
So right-
that's pretty based.
Nice.
So they're the gatekeeper team right now, like directly in the middle of the 32 teams. Yeah.
I think that's very fair.
RRQ. They are who we thought they were. Are they better than
They're better than we thought
Detonation?
we were.
They're better than Detonation, but
Yeah.
I think they'd lose to Liquid.
I think Liquid would lose to RRQ.
I'm gonna be
Okay.
honest. Put him top D tier. Top D tier. They beat Cloud9 with 3 players.
It
They
just
beat
doesn't even
Cloud9 with 3
matter. It
players.
just doesn't matter.
This does
They
matter.
win the 3v5.
Sentinels, gotta see a little glimpse of them. Still
A tier.
growing pains.
Shut the fuck up, A
No,
tier
bottom A
Sentinels.
is based. Bottom A
No,
is based.
bottom A is not
Fire.
based.
I don't want to be so associated with this screenshot if they're an A tier after just bowing out of the tournament immediately. Obviously, they lost to the
Fnatic.
They lost to
They lost to
Fnatic.
Fnatic, but that's just not a fair way of going about things.
They looked about as good as Paper X. I do think that they would still beat EG.
Would they beat?
But they had
100
worse
Thieves?
ideas, I think, than EG, but their player quality would drag them
I
through
think
it.
they would beat everyone in the B tier except maybe Furia. I think off player quality alone, I think they could just like own most of these teams. And
your little clout chasing brain's gonna have to wait and see then, aren't you? You're gonna have to provide me with any level of evidence.
Yeah,
any crumb of evidence.
Evidence they lost to Fnatic. Evidence they need time. Evidence
Show me the
I'm
evidence
capping
for
off the
Fat
stack.
L.
I'm
What the
capping
fuck?
off the stack. I'm capping. You know what? I tried to Stockholm syndrome myself into putting them higher. I can't convince myself. Put them B tier.
This is good.
Fine, put them B tier.
Yeah, they're gonna be in the middle of B tier, right next to Paper X. T1.
D.
Who did they lose to? Oh, right. They lost after getting forfeited fucking rounds to them. Holy shit.
Yeah, that was horrendous.
We call them D1 from now on.
So the top of D1, they're the gatekeepers.
No, they
No, we
lose to
call them
RRQ.
TD, tier D.
Tier D.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Team
Thank you for the
Secret.
applause.
You know,
Good.
they look pretty good.
Look pretty good.
Where do we
Team
put
Secret
them?
would beat Carmen Core.
Above Gen.G.
Yeah.
They would beat
Yes.
Carmen Core and Gen.G, but they would lose to each.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's quite reasonable.
I think that's very fair.
Okay. Heretics.
D.
All the
D.
G2 players that you got rid of.
D.
Dude, bottom C. They'd still Kellogg's on his own would still beat T1.
Yeah.
Or Kellex would drop 3 kills and lose.
I love this one fucking liner explanation for why teams are.
We're plowing through this. We got one time here, but this is going to be a factual screenshot when we get to the end of it. Talon. Very fun team. The boys.
It would
I think.
be.
They're not going to have as good a tournament out of Jitboy and Garnets in the future. That's my hot take. I think that they had a honeymoon run. I think I would put them still underneath Secret. I think actually,
Think?
maybe
That'd be a really fun
no,
matchup.
no, maybe above Secret.
Go on.
Actually, maybe I'd put them like with Paper X, a bit above Paper X, maybe.
Can we please put them above the team that they beat in EG2? Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry. I wanted to put
This
them all
is-
the way up here.
Based.
Base, actually.
I think they're better.
Yeah?
I think they're better than Sentinels, but they would lose to 100 Thieves. I think they would beat 100 Thieves. Fuck it.
Based.
Bed started throwing shuttlecocks at me.
Vitality. Twistin looked really good.
Top of the B tier.
Top of the B tier, you think-
Legitimately
Yeah.
better than Furia.
So there's only going to be
Yes.
2 teams in A tier.
Can we
I
put them
kinda
bottom
wanna
A?
do
Can we put
this.
them bottom A?
Can we do this?
Kind of based. Not really.
I disagree with Furia A. I think Furia is still top B.
I think both Leviathan and DRX are just a tier better than them. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
I think-
right. You're right. That's a tier list. That's how tier lists work. B's really crowded, man. Zeta.
Okay, this-
do we
there's
put
a
them
lot
in
of
D?
mediocre teams.
Put them in D. Put them in D.
Top of D?
No.
Zeta are a C tier
True
team.
BBL somewhere around there.
Yeah, better than that even. I think they looked better than Global probably. I think they go top of C.
Or
Really?
Sinfoot.
You think
Or
Football
lose to Foot.
would
They
lose
lose
to
to
Zeta?
Yeah, I think it's very
Kiwi
possible.
drops 40, Footballists win. Middle
Yeah,
C.
I think Kiwi would just win the game against Zeta. Koi. We saw them play once against
Dude,
NRG.
they
Between
lose to
Fury and
Carmen Core.
Giants.
They lose to
Fuck
Carmen
off.
Core.
Fuck off.
They lose to Carmen Core.
Fuck
My
off.
core?
Fuck
No,
off.
they don't.
They lose to Carmen Core.
No way!
Dude. Okay, Starkso might ult the wrong site, but come on, man. It's gonna be okay.
I forgot about that.
Carmichael-
This tournament was too
didn't-
long. I can't remember any of these teams.
Dude, that was a nasty good fake though. That was a good fake.
That's what I'm saying. Scream can't IGL like that. Koi just walk slowly to the site and kill all of the dangerous elements of Carmine Core, and everything is fine.
So we put them at the bottom of B.
No.
No,
Put them
above
above
K-Core.
Sentinels, maybe.
Maybe. So they would beat Sentinels, they'd lose to 100 Thieves.
Yes, EMEA bias here. Let's go.
Yeah, honestly, that's fine.
This is good.
Good tier list. I
Screenshot.
love this tier
This is
list.
good. I'm actually happy about this.
This is the best tier list we've ever made.
Extraordinarily
Put so much thought into
based.
it.
The more we think the wrong thing.
I
Exactly.
actually think
we've
this is
actually come up
better
with the
than the
right one.
ones that we've like argued heavily about. Like I actually feel fairly okay about this.
This is
Probably
so
because we haven't
stupid.
thought about it too hard.
Yeah, I'm not gonna think about it at
So there's
all.
only 6 A plus tier in
Yes.
all of
Yes,
franchises.
that is actually real and correct.
What, real quick, before we end this topic, who has the biggest chance to move up into that echelon?
Good question. I don't know. I actually don't. 100 Thieves probably. 100 Thieves and Sentinels, I think. If they demonstrate it over
Paper
Vitality.
more time.
I think Gen.G does. I think Gen.G actually looked very good. We only got to see one game, but I think with more games, that team might actually be a mild amount of the truth.
Any APAC teams?
I hate to agree with Josh,
Paper
but
X.
if K-Core stops trolling, maybe.
Paper X.
No, they're not going to be an A tier team. Let's calm down.
But A
calm
tier
down.
and A tier EMEA team.
A
Who else
tier
is
EMEA
there?
is fucking C tier everywhere else.
Yeah, true.
Dude, all right, let's go to Wyatt's Weekly Award.
Hello? Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I'll put them right on. It's for you.
All right. Hope you guys are enjoying those new ones. There's a lot of people.
What just happened?
I don't know. He got a phone call and he got yelled at his boss. Sideshow's getting nagged. He's like, you got to go. All right, real quick. Honorable mentions for Wyatt's Weekly Award. Pansy, Hypoc, and Achilleos. All three honorable mentions for the award. Pansy getting COVID right at the end of the event. She's still in Sao Paulo right now. Get better soon
Yeah,
and get
that's fucked.
home soon. Hypoc also got COVID during the event. Missed a lot of casts. And of course, Achilleos for stepping in and casting while being pretty much a permanent member of the desk as well. Great job to you three. But the true Wyatt's Weekly Award winner this week goes to Wyatt for correctly predicting the finals of Lock-In, with the winner being Fnatic. I don't think too many people in the world had that predicted, especially the Loud Pred, especially with all the changes they made with that team. Great job, Wyatt. You're a savant. We miss you. He's upstairs relaxing because he's been doing Plat chat for like 3 months straight. That's why I'm on this episode and not him. Yeah, I think that rounds out the episode. I think it was pretty fun. We kind of got through mostly everything. It was really fun hosting. Thank you guys for carrying us along.
Thank you, Curtis.
The episode.
Yay.
Yay!
Everyone put a thank you Knut in the comments.
Thanks,
Whoa.
Kurt.
Chad, if you love Knurt, type 1 in the comments.
Yeah, please type 1 in the comments. Otherwise,
Do we have more questions so we could extend this episode a little bit longer? Just
longer,
a
a
little
little
longer, Kurt.
no,
Any more
Josh has to go
questions?
play pickleball or whatever he has to do. Josh,
Josh is gone.
how do I end the episode? Oh, yeah, this button.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for
Sponsor
watching.
us.
Please give us money.